Well, welcome everybody to our second date night here live on The Rooted Marriage. We're so glad that you're joining us tonight. I'm David Ake.
And I'm Jamie Ake.
We, again, are so glad that you're making the time to join us tonight. Tonight, we are cooking. We have our very own cooking show, and I'd like to just do a quick introduction. Our chefs tonight are Bo and Andrea Johnson, and we're coming to you from their kitchen.
In their home.
In their home, yeah. And then we're also joined by our good friends Beth and Matthew Lawrence.
Hello.
They are going to be our sportscaster commentary tonight. So
excellent.
We're really excited about
Play.
that. But no, again, thank you so much for joining us. There's a couple things, just if you're following along, you can click on the link in the description below, and that will give you a shopping list, a recipe for cooking, as well as some really neat tips that Bo's put together on how these dishes are going to be prepared. That way, if you have to pause or take care of something, you're always welcome to come back, as we'll leave this video posted up through the weekend and in the days ahead. Also, as we're doing this kind of video live later on, you can post, there'll be some fun challenges later tonight in the comments. You can win some great prizes, some kitchen gadgets for your home that we're really excited about. So we'll kind of point towards you and give you a chance to respond through the comments, and our team will be watching those through the night so that we can pick some winners. So we are so excited, and let's get to cooking. Bo, Andrea, take it away.
Cool. Glad to have everybody join us. I will start by saying I'm not a professional chef. I just enjoy it a lot. So tonight we're not doing something very fancy, but we're doing something that we like here at home, and hopefully there's some things that are flexible and some techniques that you can use to make some other things along with this. So with that being said, we're going to start with our chicken, just because we want to get it marinating. So we're going to start with some buttermilk.
By the way, these were free-range, emotionally healthy chickens when they were purchased at the store.
They
right?
were, yes.
How did they label that?
I don't know. It's an interesting sticker.
I love it. I love it. So fun.
Buttermilk, low fat.
Gotcha.
So David, if you'll help us with some recipes.
Absolutely.
Vegetable oil.
Yeah, this can be done. We're just going to get these things marinating to start. These can be done in a regular dish. I just like doing it in a bag, because once it's done, we can just throw it away.
Oh, easy cleanup. I like that.
It's also just easier to put it back in your fridge that way, and maybe like on a little flat pan or something. It just seems like it shelves in there more easily.
It doesn't take up so much space.
Yeah.
When space is
All
at a
right, so
premium.
what do we got first in making our marinade here?
That's great. Here again, just to repeat, if you are following along, you can always download the handy guide that Bo put together. Just click on the link in the comments below, comment section below. So what do we got here? Beth, why don't you walk us through?
All right, walk us through the ingredients here. Chicken. You got that
Chicken.
much.
Yeah.
What kind of chicken are you using?
Yeah, so I really like chicken thighs. Chicken thighs are very versatile. They have a lot of fat, so they're not as tricky when you're cooking. What we have are boneless, skinless chicken thighs. You can certainly get chicken thighs with skin or with bone if you want to play your own butcher. Cut those things up. You can also use frozen chicken thighs if you set those out and let them thaw ahead of time. And then again, we'll talk through this as we're going through this, but really what we're doing today you can do with any protein. So certainly chicken breast would work with this, or you could use steak, or you could use pork. But tonight we are using boneless, skinless chicken thighs.
Let me grab you a fork.
So we just got 8 of those. I think the recipe also said you could have like a 2.5 pound bag of frozen. I think that's what those come in. So we're going to start with our marinade and our ingredients for that.
All right, so we've got vegetable oil, some buttermilk. I think you just showed us some buttermilk there, Andrea.
Yeah.
2 tablespoons of minced garlic.
Ooh.
And so what are we doing?
Do you want me to put these in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and y'all will get, I'm not a recipe guy, so I did put recipes in here so that you can follow along. I'm more of a feel guy and kind of dump things in here and there, but we did do a recipe. How much buttermilk do we have in there? I'm sorry, those aren't going in there yet.
That's okay. We've got
Oh, I thought you had it after.
1/2 cup
1/2 of a cup.
of buttermilk.
Half a cup of buttermilk.
Yes. What do I do if my chicken's frozen? Do I need to thaw that first?
Yeah, I would thaw it, or you can put it in here
Okay.
and thaw it in the fridge. So this marinade, we're only going to have it in here for about 30 minutes, but you could do it in their fridge overnight
Gotcha.
if you wanted to.
So it just basically thaws in the marinade.
Correct.
Gotcha. Huh, that's
Any
handy.
kind of buttermilk will work. This is obviously store-bought buttermilk. You can also make buttermilk. You can get a cup of just plain milk. You need probably some fat in it, like a 2% or whole. And add a tablespoon of lemon juice to it for about 15 minutes, and that'll make buttermilk for you if you don't have it.
Interesting.
How much oil we got in there, David?
Yeah, we've got a quarter cup of vegetable oil.
All right.
Now, does the oil matter? Like, as far as some people, I know some people say that they like to cook with olive oil or different things like that.
I would say you could use anything. Olive oil's more expensive, so I would just use any vegetable oil, canola oil, something like that. Just the cheap stuff for this. We're really just using it as a fat in our marinade.
Makes
And then I
sense.
think we got some garlic. Is that correct?
Yeah, in fact, we're going to do 2 tablespoons of minced garlic.
Okay.
Garlic.
So I'm just using pre-minced garlic. If I were making a spaghetti sauce or something that I was going to serve immediately, then I would cut up real fresh garlic. But since we're just making a marinade on this, I just like the stuff that's easy to use.
Yes.
What do we got on that?
I like easy to use too.
I think I have some in a little squeezy tube.
Tablespoon?
Yes. I've seen the squeezy tube of garlic before. That's kind of cool.
I like
Oh,
it.
wow, I've never seen that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
it's
go
nice.
through a lot of garlic, so we buy
Yes.
a huge. You said 2 tablespoons,
Oh, 2 tablespoons.
right?
Load 'em
Yes,
up.
2 tablespoons.
2
Two.
tablespoons. Keep in mind, don't be scared of any of these ratios. Again, I usually do this by feel. You like more garlic, add more garlic.
Yes, he'd normally just dump that in there.
Yeah, I
like
would
that.
normally just do that. What else we got in there?
All right.
All right, what do you got next?
The basil.
Paprika, some onion powder, some
1
cumin,
tablespoon of minced basil.
basil again. Since we're just using this for a marinade, I'm not going to use fresh basil. So I will let you go with a tablespoon of fresh basil, Mom.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah. So as you guys are putting that together, how do you know what spices go? Is it just over time you've kind of developed a nose for those things, or?
Exactly, and the cool thing about this dish, obviously we're putting the buttermilk in there. That's going to soften some of the proteins in the chicken, so it makes it tender. That's typically something you'll hear buttermilk fried chicken, where they'll soak it in buttermilk ahead of time. The enzymes in the buttermilk and in the milk go in and break up some of those proteins, so it makes it a little softer and not quite as tough. The other thing with this, I'm just making a generic recipe that we like. If you like Italian, then you could change some of this stuff around, add some fennel, add a little bit more basil to it, make it more of an Italian feel. If you want it to be more of a Latin feel, you can add taco seasoning, chili powder, cumin, things like that to make it more of a feel like that.
So yeah, it's a tablespoon of several things. You had basil and salt.
Okay.
Then we
that
switched
up.
Oh, you
to
need
Add
to
some
salt.
cumin.
a teaspoon. Then after that,
Yeah.
yeah. So a tablespoon of the
get out?
salt.
What's that?
I was going to say
Another
paper towels,
tablespoon.
but this will work. Okay, well, we have almost an. Oh, no, there it is.
We'll just spread it out a little bit. Then. That's
So
cool.
I'm throwing salt in there.
Yes.
Tablespoon of salt, is that what we put?
Yes, and then a teaspoon of cumin.
Okay.
Teaspoon of onion powder.
All right.
And a teaspoon of paprika. Wow, these are.
So to those of us that are just
interesting.
learning, why onion powder over freshly cut onions, or is it just
You could
the work, or?
you could certainly do onions. This is just easier. Again, this is a marinade.
Marinade purpose.
Uh,
Okay, gotcha.
Okay.
If I were again making the pan sauce, then I might do this a little differently. But since it's just a marinade, that's fine. Did you already put
Yep.
this in there?
All right.
Paprika.
And 10 grinds or shakes of pepper after
We
that
don't have
paprika.
paprika yet, right?
Pepper.
I don't think so.
It's interesting. I think when I was first learning to cook, which happened to me when we first got married, because I hadn't really cooked much prior to that. Sweet David had to.
I was a frozen pizza kind of guy.
Yeah, thankfully he wasn't too picky. Yes, spices were just a foreign language almost to me. I had no idea. I mean, I knew salt and pepper,
Right.
And
Salt
that's
and
about
pepper are
it.
pretty powerful, though.
Yeah.
I guess it's
Although
a
we
good
did
way to
have
start.
that really cute little wooden racks.
Yes.
That went right above
Yeah,
the.
The
right.
little rack with all, and yeah, those spices went bad before I used them, but now I go through spices like crazy. I've just kind of learned how the flavors work
Yeah.
together, and I'm still learning.
All right.
Yeah.
I think we got everything. Do we have basil in that or not?
No.
All right. So
Wait.
Can't forget the basil.
Yeah. Yes, we have basil in it.
I think
Okay.
yes, I think you guys did the basil.
So seal that up.
Okay.
Mix it all around in there.
Good deal.
I'm gonna put some of these other things away.
I think that's the other challenge, isn't it? How Lawrence says, how do you guys like do it at home? I know we just keep piling stuff up as we use it.
I actually told my dad not that long ago. I said I learned growing up cooking from him. I clean up as I go.
Nice.
And you were talking about spices that were like Latin flavored. I don't know if this would be considered Latin flavor, but my current kick is chipotle chili powder. And I have learned that has great power and great responsibility because it is really powerful. And I make it like in my eggs in the morning, and it's excellent. But if I have a recipe that calls for that for chili powder, I'll not use all the chipotle chili powder in the recipe because it's too strong. So I'll split it with regular chili powder and the chipotle chili powder. And it's got this, when it hits the pan, if you're doing it on the stovetop and it's got that smoke, it's so good.
Oh yes,
Man,
I love
that
it.
sounds amazing.
you like it spicy.
I do actually. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, the challenge with this is that we're all getting progressively hungrier as we
Yes,
go
I can
along,
smell
right?
it. The
It
garlic
already is
and
starting
the-
to
it
smell
smells
so
amazing.
nice. Yes.
Well,
It
raw
does
chicken
smell-
isn't too appetizing, but hopefully after we get this going, it'll get a little better.
Sushi chicken.
All right, so we just mixed this up. Again, this could have been done in a regular bowl. I like doing it in here for cleanup. We're just going to dump those things in there and
Good
then
deal.
give them a little massage. And then we're going to set those aside for about 30 minutes until we get to cooking the chicken portion of this. One thing about chicken thighs too, you'll see there's a lot of fat on the chicken thighs. That's fine. That stuff's going to cook off. It's going to render down. It's not something you need to go trim away as you're preparing it. I've wasted a lot of time doing that, and it's just not something that needs to be done for this dish. Again, as Jamie mentioned earlier, this could be frozen. These could be chicken breasts. This could be anything. And so you could put these things in the refrigerator overnight or first thing in the morning before you went to work, and then have these things ready to go when you're ready for dinner. So
Great idea.
we'll just give those things a massage.
Prepare
You can see
ahead
that paprika. I like paprika is actually ground up spices, chili powder, chili peppers, but they also don't have the heat, the capsaicin that comes in like your jalapenos and some of your more some of your hotter peppers. But
I didn't know that.
I like to think of
Interesting.
paprika as a food coloring for chili, because it's kind of the thing. Chili and barbecue, it's kind of the thing that gives you that red color
Yes.
there for everything. So paprika's pretty. It comes regular in your regular spice aisle. They also have smoked paprika.
I've seen that too. Yes.
Yeah, so anyway, I just had this dish out now, just to put it in here.
Sure.
Right, so we're just gonna set that up there and let that set for a little bit.
Cool.
And then we're gonna go into something that's a little more fun, which is some cookies.
Yeah. Well, speaking of fun, as they're getting ready to do that, it just so happens the day that we're filming this, today is Jamie and I's anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
Yeah, really
Thank
excited.
you.
How many years?
It's 18 years.
That's
Wow.
right. 18.
So we're a teenager now.
You are professionals, is
Yeah.
what you are.
Yeah,
I said
No.
our marriage is officially an adult.
yeah, there you go. There you go. It's officially an adult. Bo and Andrea, how long have y'all been married?
We'll be 20 this October.
Oh, fantastic.
That's
Congratulations.
wonderful.
Wow.
Fantastic. And Matthew and Beth, how long have y'all been married?
We just had our 4-year anniversary
Well,
this past
congratulations.
Wednesday.
Aw.
Thank
you.
Happy
Thank you.
belated
Happy
anniversary to you guys.
Thank you.
Wow, so we kind of got the spectrum here. We can,
Yeah.
We
because
do.
we've got young, well, our kids just turned into teenagers.
Yes.
Right.
So-
Early teens.
And you just graduated your
We
first.
just graduated our first,
This
our
is
oldest.
exciting. So you are the wise Gandalf couple in here.
I mean, it's crazy because we started going to Stonebriar when I was carrying her.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
wow.
Yeah. And the building had just been put up, you know, the
original. Not
original,
yeah,
just
2001.
the B building
That's so cool.
Wow.
was everything then. And I mean, you know, everybody says that of like the days are long and the years are short, and
Oh my
really
goodness,
something
yeah.
to that.
There really
Yeah,
and
it just
truly
flies on by.
is. Yes, it does. Well, that's
Flies on by.
All right, so we're gonna make some cookies now. I would say they're chocolate chip cookies, but we're gonna do some things that are just a tad different, and along with our marriage theme to see how well you couples at home, and of course these folks, know each other, how well they can make or dress a base chocolate chip cookie dough for their spouse.
Ooh, that's a great idea.
In starting off, I have in my little KitchenAid here a stick of butter. It's actually 2 sticks because these are the kind that come in the little small things instead of the big ones. But anyway, it's a stick of butter.
Half a cup.
Half a cup. In general, I would call this a half recipe. I'm just doing it like this because there's just 6 of us. And so each couple is going to have about 8 cookies.
It's good to get warmed up with.
Yeah, we'll probably, we're probably gonna have a few cookies before we eat. It's okay.
Dessert first? I was like
Should
that.
be.
Christ died for that. I mean, we're gonna be good. We're gonna be good. So we're gonna start with our butter, and then we're gonna add some sugars. I think we probably have, if I'm doing math correctly, we're gonna have a half cup of brown sugar
Okay.
and a quarter cup.
So Matthew and Beth, while he's getting that ready, are you
White
guys
sugar.
crunchy or chewy cookie people?
Oh, chewy.
Chewy for sure.
Chewy, yeah.
I mean,
that-
I would say you could go so chewy you don't even have to bake it.
Yeah, or it just
Right.
kind of melts in your mouth.
Yes.
Practically raw.
We'll do the raw
Yes.
cookie. Yeah,
Yeah.
guilty.
So one thing you can do, these are pasteurized eggs. So you can just make 6 cookies and you can have 2 things of raw cookie dough.
There you go.
Nice.
So
That's
glad
great.
I'm here
Who
tonight.
doesn't like raw cookie dough?
Yeah.
So I think the recipe mentions that we want this to be at room temperature. If you don't have it at room temperature, you can cut it up kind of in small little bits, half tablespoon, spin it around in here, it'll heat up and be just fine. So anyway, we got a half cup of butter, a half cup of brown sugar, and a quarter cup of sugar. Is that correct?
Yes.
I saw somebody
Cup of
go
white
after the
sugar.
butter with a cheese grater one time. It was frozen, and they just grated it.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow,
Cheese
really?
grater, and that got it
That
too.
makes sense.
Yeah, and so cheese grater, like if you're making a pie dough, you freeze the butter and then you can
Yeah.
Now, does that add, like, just the fat soaks into the...
yeah. So pie doughs
dough
are
or-
tricky because they're kind of like biscuits. You want flaky and tender.
Yeah.
And so when I do it, I'll do 2 different kinds of fat. So I'll use shortening, and then I'll also use the butter. But you want the butter in tiny little bits. So that gives you those little pockets within the pie dough or those pockets in the biscuit. They give you the 2 different
I
things.
did not know that.
That is genius.
So we have our sugars in here. Part of the leavening of a chocolate chip cookie, of the base that we're doing, is that right now we're beating a whole bunch of air bubbles into that butter. So just think of the little bits of sugar. We went with 2 sugars, regular white sugar and then brown sugar. I like the brown sugar. It gives you a caramel, deeper flavor. It's basically white sugar with molasses added to it. But I like it because it also has some moisture and helps keep that thing chewy, and then obviously it caramelizes as we cook it. So that's about long enough there. We'll go ahead and add our egg in.
So I've learned so many things here at the beginning. My brain's getting full. Like, I didn't know that brown sugar was
White sugar with
white
molasses.
sugar with molasses. Like,
Yes.
Right?
I always just thought it was like cane sugar, or just that it was more raw.
It's
or
still
something like
refined.
that. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's actually refined just like white sugar is, but it's actually refined less than white sugar is. Now, they're
Interesting.
both very high in calories. And
Yeah, so it knows which fork to use, but it still has a koozie for its meal.
I like that.
We have a cute cookie story.
Oh, yeah, go for
tell
it.
Our
us.
wedding,
What story is that?
the cookie story. Your group's cake.
Oh yeah, my groom's cake.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I love Oreos. I grew up eating Oreos
Yum.
every night for dessert.
Just 2 though.
Yeah,
Apparently
we had a
rule.
limit. That was kind of my parents' limit. Was more or less we could kind of eat whatever we wanted, but there was restrictions on how much you could eat, rather than kind of trying to restrict what we could eat. But yeah, so that was kind of a 2 cookie a night limit. But Oreos, man, and still is my favorite cookie.
That's awesome.
So my groom's cake at the wedding was, a large round cake that was decorated to look like an Oreo.
no way.
Oh, neat. neat.
And
I
it
love
was
that.
just a regular chocolate cake on the inside, but
That's awesome.
Oh, it was so good.
yeah,
Yum.
Did you get to eat more than 2 bites of it? That's the question.
not that night.
It's not at your own
The
wedding,
wedding
yes,
venue
that's
sent
true.
us home with a box, right?
But we took
on
so
the
much
honeymoon.
cake home.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we had a couple of slices that went with us on the honeymoon, by which I mean we had those for breakfast the next
Yeah,
morning.
there
Yeah.
you go.
Yes, cake for breakfast.
Yes.
Oh, it was good. And
Especially
then
chocolate
I
cake.
a birthday a couple years later, I went to the same cake venue and got the same chocolate cake.
Yes.
And we had that for his birthday one time. That was
Yes.
fun.
That's so
Oh, man.
thoughtful. I love that. That's a great idea.
It was good.
Great idea.
So one thing I did in here while we were talking, I did scrape down the sides of the pan in here just to make sure some of that stuff got off the side. I am going to add a little bit of vanilla in here. What are we calling for vanilla?
1 teaspoon of vanilla.
1 teaspoon. That looks like a teaspoon to me. and now everybody gets to see how I cook.
I
There
heard
you go.
baking was
That's
more of
good.
a precision art.
You're in the zone, Bo.
Wouldn't
You're
you
in the
think?
zone.
But vanilla, I think you can get away with. Like,
No,
I think
he
it comes
gets
more
away
to
with
like
all
the
of
baking
it.
soda,
So, Bo, when
baking powder.
people talk about different kinds of vanilla, like Mexican vanilla and then like the stuff you buy in the grocery, is there really a difference, or is it like,
it smells good.
I would guess so. That is above my purview. I don't know.
gotcha, all right. Finally asked the question that
Well, if anybody in our viewing audience knows the difference between Mexican vanilla or regular vanilla like you buy at the
I
grocery
think
store,
Mexican vanilla is stronger, right?
Is it stronger?
Does it use less?
I don't
It's
know.
possible.
We would
Alcohol,
love
right.
to hear it. Like, tell us in the comments. Tell us, explain to us, enlighten us.
Tell
That'd
me
be
if
great.
I'm right or
yeah,
wrong.
you might win a prize.
And
You
so
just
real-
might win a
real
prize,
vanilla
that's
comes
true.
from Madagascar. Is that correct?
Yes.
I think so. I think real vanilla comes from Madagascar. So I'm guessing Mexican vanilla probably has some different characteristics, but is from Mexico.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking that adjective maybe has.
I just know every time I go home to visit my family, people are like, "Hey, bring me back a couple of bottles of Mexican
Yeah.
vanilla." So
All right. I am adding a little bit of salt. What does it say for us to add?
Salt. Let me see. Oh, it says a half a teaspoon.
Half a teaspoon.
His
I'm gonna
fingers
call that a half a
precisely are.
teaspoon.
it's like a pinch.
And when I started cooking, I wasn't always a cook. I just enjoyed it, so I started doing it. When I started doing it and I saw sweet recipes, I never understood why you would add salt to a recipe that wasn't savory. And so since then, I've understood that salt also helps turn on some of the flavor receptors within your mouth, within your tongue.
Oh wow.
And so salt actually makes things more sweet by the combination of whatever the NaCl does in that. So and you've seen it before where you get chocolates and it has sea salt on the top of it.
Oh yes.
And so when you have that extra bite, it actually makes it taste more like what it's supposed to taste like. So anyway, the whole point in that is don't leave the salt out of your
So like it's a little nitrous for your taste buds there.
I like
nitrous.
that.
A little
Is
bit
that
of
like a
salt's not
Fast
just
and
to make
Furious
things
reference?
Yeah,
Right.
make other things more fun.
that's
Did
for
you
you,
add
Chris. Like,
No. What do we got in here? Just flour?
Well, we just saw you add salt.
I added salt in there. So in here we got what, 1.25 cups of flour, is that correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, and then what are our ratios on baking
soda.
powder and baking soda? I think it's like 3 to 1 maybe.
Yes, you have 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder
Here's the teaspoon.
and a half teaspoon of baking soda.
so like 3 to 1.
1.5 and a
Oh,
half.
no.
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
All in teaspoons.
So that's a teaspoon.
Okay.
Well, that's a half teaspoon of the baking soda. And this is a teaspoon.
So Matthew and Beth, what do you guys like to bake at home? Like what's
I
seasonally-
cannot be trusted with baking, so I don't bake.
Oh,
The
wow.
reason is because I will eat all of it.
Uh-huh.
I would love to. I
Yes.
do cooking. I don't bake very much.
Gotcha.
Unfortunately, because I have a really strong sweet tooth. I love all the sugar. So
Oh my goodness.
if I bake something, I have to give it away. And I've done it too, where I used to teach, right? And what's some of the really popular things to give the teacher?
Yes.
Sweet
Sugar.
things, and
Yes.
a lot of them. I got.
Yes, lots of baked goods.
I got
What's the cinnamon rolls for?
Yes, I got cinnamon. I don't know, Cinnabons. A box of 6 Cinnabons,
Cinnabons.
and the box must have weighed. It must have weighed 6 pounds.
The buns were like this big around.
wow.
Uh, And I just gave
Yeah.
them to him, and that's what happens. Is I make something or I get something, and he has to take it to work. But now he works
Oh,
from
yeah.
home, so that's a problem. But Yeah,
Can't
so I
send it
just
away,
I just
yeah.
give that stuff
we
away.
we wound up doing that with our wedding cake, I think, or at least the ice cream that was left over from the wedding.
Yeah, people
because we were
took
just
stuff
eating it,
home.
and it was just lasting so long. And she's like, "You just got to get the sweets
Oh,
out of the
man.
house." So I took leftover ice cream and wedding cake to the office, and it felt kind of weird to do that with wedding cake. But
After
it's
Bo
like,
explains this, I have a funny story about wedding cake. But so Bo, I saw you put oatmeal in that.
Yeah, so I put
Container
oatmeal.
there.
I'm going to grind it up, so it's going to be loud here for just a second. This is just a bullet.
Oh, that's not that
Not that
But it's a
loud.
NutriBullet, so it makes it healthier, right?
that's right.
Well, you
bad. All
know,
the calories
oatmeal,
just flew out of it.
Just
you know,
ground up.
oatmeal
Green
has,
smoothie or oatmeal cookies.
Yeah.
It's the same.
right. So it doesn't. Nothing needs to be perfect with that, but you know, now we're adding the oatmeal to our flour mixture. So in here we got flour, baking powder, and baking soda, and then oatmeal. And then it doesn't have to be perfect. If there's little things of oatmeal or bigger pieces of oatmeal, that's fine. The last thing we do, buttermilk.
Yes.
I think we had just like a tablespoon of buttermilk.
Is the oatmeal added for like a texture thing?
Yes, 1 tablespoon of buttermilk.
I like the taste of oatmeal, especially when it's cooked. The other thing, oatmeal brings a chewiness to it. Oatmeal, unlike the flour, does not have gluten. So the gluten in the flour, I just like this because it brings volume to it, but also helps it stay chewy.
Nice.
So most cookies are chewy when you take them out of the oven. I think the oatmeal helps to keep it chewy longer, just at room temperature after the fact.
I like that.
What do we got? Tablespoon?
Yes.
Yeah, so you'll notice in our leaveners, we used both types of leaveners. We used the baking powder and the baking soda. The baking soda is stronger than baking powder, but baking soda needs acid. And so we're just putting a little bit of acid in there to get the baking soda in there. That's why we did the two different things of that. So we're going to give that a spin and then keep this on low. And then slowly we're just going to add our dry mixture to it.
Otherwise, stuff goes flying if you go too fast, right?
Yeah.
See, my 9-year-old self would have just like boom.
Oh yeah.
And cranked it full speed.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, and then you get a COVID bomb that goes off everywhere.
Yeah. That's so true. So yeah, story while he's mixing that up. We had a dear friend one time come to church early in the morning. His mom had gotten married the night before, and he brought 2 cakes. One was a cake he'd gotten at work, and he didn't realize that he had accidentally grabbed the topper off his mom's cake from the fridge as he was leaving the house. And we even asked him, we're like, "Are you sure?" He was like, "Yeah, just eat the cakes in the break room." And the people that showed up that day demolished those cakes. He called us up about a week later, and he's like, "My mom's coming home from her honeymoon. I realized that was her wedding topper that we ate."
We
So
were supposed
is there?
to sit
He
down.
goes, "You think I can get another one made really quick?" I'm like, "No, you can't do that."
Oh my goodness.
And he's such a great guy. Like
Yeah,
he's a
yeah.
nice guy. But she was a little mad at him for a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like something I would do.
Yes. We did the whole freeze the top layer of your
Yeah.
wedding
Yeah,
cake.
we did too.
It was okay.
Right, yeah. I don't
Did
know
y'all
if
try
was
to
as
eat
good
it?
the
Did y'all?
second.
I don't. It was really good cake.
It was
I-
really good cake. You're right.
It may not have been as good, but it was still
Still decent,
Quite
huh?
nice.
It's cake, right?
yeah. Right.
Cake is fun.
Now, what
All right.
ice cream did y'all have at your wedding?
So again, I just scrape down the sides and mix these up
Yeah.
a little bit. What I'm going to do now, since we have special guest with us.
Here.
Oh, you already got my scooper out. Yeah. I'm going to give them each some stuff. Babe, you want to go get their fixings?
I'm
Over
getting
there.
really excited. I'm getting really excited.
I'm gonna move this over here a sec.
We had Bluebell at our wedding. We found some
wow.
sort of deal at Walmart.
Yeah.
Is that right?
I don't know that we got a deal on it. The venue was actually, they were very professional, but they were also very chill of like, we wanted to do kind of an ice cream / topping / sundae bar.
Oh, nice.
And this venue was like, yeah, you know, we're not going to run it for you. We're not going to charge you for it. Like, you provide the supplies, we'll
Just
provide
set it
the
up.
labor.
Wow.
So we were super excited about that. Had the I think just Bluebell vanilla and then all manner of toppings. And then we didn't actually get any because,
We got married instead.
What do you say? Bluebell
we were
Vanilla is like
busy
this
greeting
beautiful
people
canvas,
and,
you know, like-
Yeah.
and doing all that other stuff. So
That happens at weddings sometimes.
So good. I'm gonna
Look at
sneak
all these
one. I'm
toppings.
gonna sneak one M&M here.
So Andrea, you brought over like the topping selection
Right.
or mix-in
it
selection.
says on the side what
Yeah,
it
I
is.
put the names on there.
Say it again.
Oh
You
yeah,
can see
yeah.
there's
White chocolate.
Oh,
It's like
peanut
some-
butter chips, just
Peanut butter chips.
semi-sweet,
Ooh,
which is
heat.
my favorite.
My weakness.
yum.
Yummo.
So
caramel.
what we're doing now is I'm just dishing these out. This is I wrote it down on the recipe thing. It's just under an
good.
ounce,
The
which is
scoop.
the scoop, which is
Piece
kind of
of
the size
cookie
I
scoop.
like. And so it should be just about 8
Yeah.
per couple.
If you're following along at home, this is a great time to kind of get out what was on the bottom of your shopping list there, which is this has been really nicely put together for us.
You want me to show
Of some
it?
Yes.
some
Very good.
fun toppings for
Exactly.
cookies.
All the good stuff.
Where's Matthew?
What do you like?
Yeah, right.
Semi-sweet.
Oh my
Here we
goodness, this
have
looks amazing.
butterscotch,
Oh,
peanut
thanks.
butter, white chocolate, like the toffee,
Here's
the
peanut
heat,
butter.
Yeah.
Thank
caramel,
you.
which
Thank
I
you.
think is a huge mistake, almonds, other kind of heat, pecans, M&Ms.
Caramel is a
I won't
huge
judge
mistake.
you if you do the caramel, but
You don't care for caramel? Is that why it's a mistake?
I really like caramel, but I just think it's wrong here.
Oh.
You didn't. I noticed
On
you didn't
the-
put raisins. What's the deal?
Right.
I did
I,
not.
Yes,
no, I'm okay
we
with that,
did it.
but you've seen
It
that
didn't
thing
even
on
cross
that
our
meme
minds
that
for
says,
some
Yeah.
reason.
you said.
I
When you
do
bite
make
into it, you think
a
it's
white
chocolate
chocolate.
chip.
I make a cookie with white chocolate and cranberries that
Oh,
we
yeah,
like
that
a lot.
sounds good.
I could have, but the
Ooh, yeah.
it's a little bit different.
And a lot of
I
people
don't
don't
know.
like raisins. I like raisins, but
So as you can
So-
see, we are following interesting precautions.
So, well, you're going to play with your food. So we got the gloves out. If, in general, if you were making a full batch of cookies, then you would add your stuff into the dough, into the batter. What we're doing here is a little bit different, where everybody can kind of make their own little special cookies. You can choose with your spouse whether y'all want to each put some things in and mix that up and have,
One
everything be the
ginormous
same,
cookie?
or if you want to take the cookies and make them each individual. If you were doing it together, you would do about a cup to a cup and a half for that amount of batter of mix-ins. Each of these are a quarter of a cup. I think y'all are intelligent people and y'all can figure out how much to put in your ratios as far as doing those. And then,
More, always
more.
Yeah, I was gonna
All
say
of them,
more.
right? More.
Don't bring math into this.
honey, you're going to do yours.
Okay.
You're going to do ours. You want some gloves?
Sure.
Okay.
So-
here's what
Okay, what do you want to do?
The point in this being, what we just made was a basic chocolate cookie dough recipe without anything in it. You can have all the freedom and flexibility in the world to add whatever it is that you like to eat in your cookies. So as Andrea shows you, we have a bunch of different things in there. My favorite type of cookie is to take a little bit of all that stuff and throw it in there. But
kitchen
again,
sink.
I will leave it to each of you guys if you want to make 4 individual cookies for each other, or if you want to make things together. Try to keep the ratios about the same as far as that ball size, so that our cooking time will be
Yeah.
actually where it needs to be.
Oh, yeah.
So we're gonna move forward and get these ingredients mixed into our cookies. So we want to kind of issue a challenge to everyone at home.
Yes.
First is get your cookie mix together, and we'd love to see how that turns out before you stick it in the oven. So throw up a picture up in the comments. We'd love to see what that looks like, and
Yes.
move forward. And then I think you had a trivia
Well,
question. for
yes, I
everybody.
was wondering, how many of us really know what our spouse's favorite cookie toppings are? I know for David, he's a white chocolate macadamia nut kind of guy, and I am a chocolate chip kind of gal. What about you guys? Do you have you know each other's favorite type of cookie?
Oh, I think so. I mean, we already covered mine. But if
Oreo.
we're talking
Oreo
about,
cookies, yeah.
talking about more of like a chocolate chip cookie and adding toppings, I'll just go straight with the chocolate chips. Maybe some sea salt and some caramel
Oh,
would be
nice.
great. And Beth loves anything peanut butter. So peanut butter,
Really?
chocolate chip cookies, that's going to be her vice.
So yeah, I think part of the fun in marriage is just knowing those kinds of fun facts about each other.
Those little details.
Those
right?
little details. So if you don't know your spouse's favorite topping, this would be a great time just to stop and ask and find out something new about them that you didn't know before.
Absolutely. So give us a minute. We're gonna mix up our cookies here. Try that at home as well.
Yes.
Let's give it a shot here.
And yes, we'd love to see those
So are we
pictures for
making,
sure.
oh, are we making 4
Okay, so we're gonna
cookies?
do one
got 8.
individual cookie, and
I got 7.
Yeah, here, let's just put on
so you're
there.
just gonna sprinkle on top. Wait, can we
I
take?
think Matthew already
Yeah,
ate
that's
one.
all right.
Matthew snuck one,
Like,
probably.
yeah.
All
So
right.
7
Or
cookies.
do you just
Wait,
sprinkle
we'll
on
make,
top?
so we're making
I think
7
you
cookies.
sprinkle it on-
All right, so there you go.
I think you
Yeah,
can
so
sprinkle
are
it
y'all
on,
gonna
but
do
he
them
wants
each
it like
individually?
worked
I
in,
think
but
so.
that's-
Oh,
Okay.
we're
We'll make a
in.
couple
Ah,
for you.
yeah,
I'll
there
make
you
a
go.
Now
couple
I
for
know.
you.
Hard to
We'll
work
see how
it
it
in.
turns
I like
out.
that.
Gotcha.
Alright.
Okay, so
Yeah, can we
here.
just roll
Sure,
it?
And then we'll
Like-
make a couple
Sure,
together.
okay.
It's like you flatten it out
I'm
in
gonna
your
say,
hand.
let's make a
Pretty
couple. Like 2 for you, 2 for me.
So we're flattening it out a
And the
little
last two
bit.
we can kinda-
Okay.
I would just roll it into a ball.
You want
So
me
you do
Okay.
2 the way you want.
And add all your stuff, so
Kind of in your hand.
it's probably about a total of a half of what's in one of these cups
Okay.
that needs to go in each
So
cookie.
you
Gotcha.
just kind of make it
Makes
into a
sense.
ball.
Gotcha, yes.
You just kind of roll it in. Oh wait, no, Andrew's
Do you flatten it out?
I'm
Making a
trying
mess
this.
here, but
Okay.
I'm playing with my food. I don't
Yeah,
know.
they'll flatten themselves
Oh, okay. So keep it in.
later.
They're
because-
self-flattening
Well, I'm
cookies.
gonna roll it back up.
because
Yeah.
of the size.
Oh, okay.
So if you want to like use the bowl as your little mixing thing here,
You're
you
right
can
there.
do
Heat
that.
and the nuts might be
You want a
really
little
forgot
good.
there
mixing
was-
palette here?
Yeah,
Oh,
do you want
excellent.
that one?
Yes, I want to.
Let me find
So
it
I'm
here.
gonna
real
put mine
quick.
on that end, and then you can put yours on the other
There's
end. Are you
heat
trying
right
it,
here.
testing it
Giving
out?
you guys a little
Making sure
palette
they're
that
not
you can mix
poison.
in if you want.
yeah.
Oh, sweet.
Thank
I'm gonna
you.
try the
Perfect.
flavors and see if they go together.
Here, go ahead and start making yours.
Contaminated
Okay, I'm
there.
gonna take 2 and do for me.
All right, sounds
All
good.
right, so I'm gonna get artistic here.
Actually,
I
I
hope
should
that's
probably just
allowed.
do one at a time.
Yes.
Yeah, so I would start, in a ball, get all your stuff together, roll it in a ball, put
Okay.
it on there, and then if you want to put some things on the top, like some M&Ms that are a certain thing, that's
Oh
fine.
yeah,
I
and
don't know that my technique is very
Again,
good here.
these are just under 1 ounce. The scooper we had, just under 1 ounce. I think it's actually 7/8 of an ounce. But you can make these anything from about where these are my favorite size, up to about 2 ounces. 2 ounces are pretty big
You're
cookies.
supposed to flatten them out before
No,
put
we
them?
don't flat. They will.
Oh.
They are self-flatteners.
Yeah,
And
sorry, I was distracted by all the sweets.
Yeah.
My husband's favorite color is red, and he went to OU, so here's
Yes.
my little
I like that.
creation.
Look at that.
I like that.
Do they have good desserts at OU? Like,
They did, yes.
We had some OU. We had little M&Ms, red and white.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
a
no
bowl of
way.
red and white M&Ms at our wedding, and you can get M&Ms printed with different
Pretty
things.
much whatever you want.
Yeah, and we
within
had
reason.
OU on there.
okay, I did.
I'm trying to
pecan.
reach
Oh,
the
that's
dough,
good.
and
I
you're
know.
making life hard. There we go. This is gonna end
So we just clump
poorly.
them back
I'm just
together?
gonna mix
yeah,
by
yeah. So you
hand
just kind of
here.
fall it back
Yeah.
up.
Do you
I
want
think.
to
All right, so
put a towel
I'm
out
gonna do a-
for the wash dishes? Or you're
These
just
are
rinsing?
ones that you're making for me,
And
yes. So
I'm
we're
gonna go
like
for
do
yours.
that.
You want to
We're
just
gonna
separate?
separate.
We're not
Actually,
using
one
any of the
Two for me?
Just
I
haul
did.
it
I've
for
made
the
2 for you.
laundry
Right.
room for now.
You want to do the 3?
I'm running out of
3
options.
just for us?
I'm
or
gonna try.
You
Yes.
want to do some more
I've
for
never.
I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just doing stuff. I'm feeling it. I'm just feeling it.
me? I like that approach, though. I like
the
the
heat?
dipping technique.
Yeah, it
Did you use
stick
the heat?
grabs on.
I end up using the
Over here.
chocolate toffee.
Heat.
Oh wait, there's chocolate.
What
top.
is this exactly?
Yes.
I don't even know.
It's a
Where did it go? Oh, it's
Milk
here.
chocolate toffee.
toffee or coffee?
There you go.
I think it's
So
toffee.
Matthew, when I was a
Yes.
kid in high school,
You
I used to save part of my lunch money because the store in our high school sold the Oreo Big Stuff, the one
Oh,
big
yes.
cookie.
Yes.
And
I
I
was
had
looking those
one
up on Google just
every
a couple
day.
nights ago.
I think I'm still trying to lose some of that weight,
Yeah.
but it was so good.
Sadly, they don't make those anymore.
Oh, really? Oh, that's
No,
too bad.
I think somebody realized what a dangerous
Yeah,
idea
it's
that
like-
was.
Let's put Crisco between two.
Yes.
Right?
So yes, be
Okay.
sure to post some pictures of your cookie creations. We definitely want to see. And like David said, there might be a prize involved.
Okay, here's my 2. Now we go crazy on the last one.
Yes.
All right, let's just dump everything. in
Okay,
there
just kind of like
till
And
it's
again,
like-
all I'm doing is like
I don't-
mashing
I
it
don't
in
think I
there.
hold
it.
This is fun.
just a little of this, a little.
It's like
giving
a
it
little-
all she's got, Captain.
Well, it should be kind of like going to a salad bar. Like if you go to Salada and you go sit down and you don't like your salad, it's really kind of your fault. So I think these cookies should be somewhat along the lines of that because you get to put whatever in it, whatever in them.
Do
that
I
you
need-
want.
This
Do
one
you want
turned out a
nuts?
little large, I think.
Let's
I
go
put a lot of
nut
toppings in
free
there.
on this cookie.
Okay,
But
I think I'm gonna go
He's
with
gonna
the-
hang out for a little while.
Okay,
All right, these
here
look
we
really
go.
good. I just want to eat one of these.
We're going all in on this one.
A little bit of
Like
everything.
everything.
One left.
Okay.
I know this is
I don't know if
yours.
it'll hold it
Faster
all.
than I am, clearly.
I am,
the
and
batter's
I
gonna
was-
hold that one together.
Yeah, I was gonna
This is a
say.
basic chocolate
Bo's
chip.
face.
This is the
Okay.
Cookie's already looking at me like, really, dude? Like,
That may be the
In there, and
We
then
don't know.
Yeah, we
down with the rest of them.
How do these
Wait,
look?
what was this? The caramels. Do you
Look
like
great.
those?
We do. They're very
Like
So-
artwork.
Are you going to use
You
these?
have them in your bowls. I'm just going to have you give a slight push.
I think I will.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna put this one right.
Good.
Just gonna
It looks like a
take some
monstrosity.
there you go.
It is a
good.
monstrosity.
Nice.
Oh my.
We're good.
We need
The
more.
ratio
Our
did
ratio
not
is
turn
not
out.
quite great.
Wait, are you supposed to
Make
It's
it work.
okay
Yes.
because
That's all right.
You said to.
brown sugar and butter cover a multitude of
This is true.
Butter.
That and
I
ranch
think that's in
salad dressing.
Corinthians, isn't it?
It should be.
So that's funny because I got marriage advice like that right before I got married from a guy, and he said ranch covers a multitude of sins. He's
Yeah,
like,
that's
go buy a
true.
I did
bunch
catch up,
your first
yeah.
year
Good.
of marriage.
And we
Whenever I
needed
make
it.
something new, I
that
usually
was
put
ended
some
up being
ketchup
accurate
on
for
the
us.
table.
Oh yeah. Just
Are
in
y'all
case.
done with
Kills
yours?
the
I think
We
so.
are.
Okay. So you push the envelope on one.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, really.
It's
Okay.
like
Played
the
it safe till that
This
last
one's a
one.
big.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got one more here.
Okay.
I'll take
Great.
pictures of them so we see.
You want to split that in?
We're kind of out of
Yeah.
hand. Here we go.
Okay, so
Boink.
you gave yours
Monster
a
cookie.
slight
Oh,
pat
you
down?
Yes.
rolled
Is
yours
that
up
pat
really
enough?
nicely.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
So now just do a slight pat.
She gave it a
Alright.
good game.
I took my
Like,
gloves off.
way to
What's your
go.
pat, honey?
Well,
A little more.
push down.
There you go.
That'll work.
Okay.
Everybody's
There you
watching,
go.
honey.
So much pressure.
Don't mess it up.
It is a lot of pressure.
I got that.
Tell us about your technique, Matthew. Yeah.
Okay, now
That
let me
was
show you
very
how you're
punny.
supposed to pat them down. I'm kidding. All right. So we got our cookies. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier. My oven is convection oven, 325. That's what I set it at. Most cookie recipes like this are going to be in the 325 to 375 range. You'll have to tweak with that. For mine, I know it's 325. So what we're going to do is put all of these in there.
Ours has the Frankenstein cookie there on the.
Did y'all do one with
Exactly.
everything in it?
Yeah, we just well,
Oh.
They did.
much to Jamie's chagrin, I dumped everything I could.
Nice.
And then what I did is I set a timer for 5 minutes. We were using small pans. Typically, you'd have obviously bigger full-size cookie sheets, and you'd have a cookie sheet on the top and a cookie sheet on the bottom. So we're going to set the timer for 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, we're going to rotate those and then switch them. And then after 5 minutes, we're going to take them out.
Nice.
So we should be good to go there.
Eat them.
All right. So while our cookies are going, we got our timer set. This is a good backstop for us.
That's good.
We're going to start making some of the sides for our chicken. Now's always a good time to go check on the chicken.
I'm bringing out the broccoli.
Just
Gonna
see,
dig all
is.
this out.
just see how happy it is in there, and maybe make sure it's
It's like Bob Ross.
doing all right, and it's all evenly coated and covered, and it appears to be. So that's good. Our chicken's in good shape.
Now, just again, kind of a question from ignorance. How long can chicken sit out if you're cooking? Like, let's say you're making a bigger meal. Like, no more than 20 minutes, or
No,
it's-
well,
I've heard 2 hours.
I would say 2 to
hours?
4 hours.
Okay.
The difference in this being, it's in the buttermilk, and it's got the different seasonings on it, and we're going to cook the heck out of it because it's chicken thighs. But typically, I would say I would leave it refrigerated until you are ready to start preparing your meal, and then it
Gotcha.
can sit here for a couple hours and be fine.
Sweet.
So we're going to make some broccoli to go along with this. We picked broccoli. We like broccoli. This could be asparagus. It could be any cruciferous vegetable, cauliflower. You could do anything with this. When I was growing up, I didn't like frozen broccoli that was pulled out and steamed to death until it was all mushy. So I like roasting vegetables like this.
I'm
And
very
then-
guilty of that. Over steaming it, making it mushy. I'm very guilty.
So we're going to roast these to where they have a little bit of snap to them, and we're also going to add some seasoning and stuff to them so they have a little bit more wow to them than just plain old broccoli. Our recipe here, now on this one, we are going to use olive oil.
I know that one. I know.
Refilled that.
We know olive oil.
Yeah.
How much olive oil we got?
Let me find it for you.
I was waiting for a Popeye joke or something.
Well, I'm not sure.
Nope.
Lawrence, since you got that list over there,
Yeah. Let's
why don't
see.
you walk us through that there?
On the broccoli, right? So you
Quarter cup.
quarter cup of olive oil.
Okay. I think I took all my measuring cups back there.
Nice
So,
big dollop of garlic.
the recipe calls for a quarter cup. We're going to do this. And again, you can kind of do this by feel. You're not going to ruin anything adding too much olive oil to it because inevitably we're going to toss this. And then whenever we're placing it out to prepare whatever olive oil doesn't stick to this is going to fall off onto the parchment paper anyway. So you feel free to eyeball that. Some olive oil, some salt, pepper. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do we have lemon?
Got a half cup of lemon juice.
Okay. And zest, is that optional?
Yes, sir. It says half a cup lemon juice or juice of about 2 lemons with zest.
Okay. So I'm going to take zester. This is a microplane. You also have little tiny zesters. I really love zest because it brings a lot of bright pop to food. So we're just going to start taking some zest off this lemon. And I'm just going to go with the zest of 1 lemon. And
I
we will
heard you
toss
want to
that in
knock
there.
it down to the white part.
I
right?
don't
'Cause
own
that's
one of
the
those
bitter
devices.
part.
So is that one of your favorite cooking tools, would you say?
I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite. I mean, this is called a microplane. It's one of my favorite for zesting.
For zesting? Mm-hmm.
And it's also good for nutmeg.
Gotcha. We must
Now, I
invest
noticed in your
one.
technique there, Bo, you're just, I know I tend to get in there and like just scrub. Is that like how did,
One direction.
Well, you know, the outer part of this has most of the essential oils and a lot of the flavor. Obviously, the white pithy stuff is white pithy stuff. So you don't want to get after it like it's in trouble. But just get in there until it's in good shape. So we took the zest off of that lemon. We said 1/4 cup of lemon juice. Again, if you want to be very formal about it, you can measure out 1/4 cup. I again am not, and so I'm going to start. All lemons have a little bit different juice level. But we're just going to see about what this looks like. Can you hold this part or not really? Okay. Good. So I'm just going to get after this and see how much juice ends up getting in there.
I'd say a fair amount.
Right. And so while that's happening, I'm going to go ahead and turn those because their timer went off.
It's
That's looking
starting
good.
to smell like cookies in here, y'all. It's pretty amazing.
I tried something I saw on TV with a lime the other day, and I think I may have seen it with a lemon, but I was having a really hard time squeezing the juice out. And I saw that what you can do before you cut it is just put it on your countertop and roll it back and forth, and that kind of loosens everything up inside there. And then when you cut it, it's already sort of
oh, wow.
loosened up, and you're not,
Right.
and it's because it's hard to hold on to half of a lemon and squeeze it. It's just awkward, and so
Yeah.
that works
Oh,
really well
so.
if you're.
Yeah.
Very good trick. I like that idea.
That's really, really great.
All right, so we got 5 more minutes. Again, we switched top to bottom and we rotated them in the oven just to help with any hot spots. So this is a pretty juicy lemon, I would say. So this lemon itself will definitely be enough for our deal, for our little marinade thing we're making here. You can shake that around in there and make sure we get rid of that.
Your recipe also mentions garlic.
Yeah, garlic's great.
Always
You
garlic.
can always add garlic.
Why not?
Did I put garlic powder or did I
Could never
put
go wrong
garlic?
with
You
garlic.
said minced garlic
Okay.
in your recipe. 1/4
So
cup.
we're going to do the same thing. Since this is just going to go on the outside, how much did I say?
1/4 cup.
So for those of you at home, you can certainly measure out 1/4 cup. Does anybody here not like garlic?
We love it.
Love garlic? Okay.
Yeah.
Can you ever not have enough garlic?
So I really like garlic.
What do they say? An apple a day keeps the doctor away. A garlic a day keeps everyone away.
Right here.
Which really comes in handy during COVID quarantine.
Right. Or it keeps vampires away.
All right, go.
I think that's it. So we're going to rub that all around. Mix it up just like we did our marinade. While she's doing that, I'm going to start cutting some of this broccoli.
So does the juice like dissolve in the oil, or those
Yeah, that's
two things
basically
stay?
a dressing.
Oh, really?
You know, so if
Okay.
you were making a dressing, you would typically have 2 to 1 with your oil and then whatever your acid or liquid was. So that's basically, we just made a dressing. In fact, if you were doing like a cheat, if you wanted to, you could take like a lemon poppy seed dressing or an Italian dressing or something that you have in the refrigerator if you didn't want to actually pull out and make that. I think lemon juice and lemon zest, lime, stuff like that, those are irreplaceable when it comes to using fresh ingredients as opposed to just plain juice. So I really like the difference that makes in there. Our recipe, again, called for broccoli. I'm just cutting off the part of broccoli off these heads that everybody likes to eat.
Off with their heads.
Off with their heads, exactly.
Many of us would expect you to use a cutting board. It's so unconventional.
Yeah, that's
the way
a
you're cutting
unique
that.
technique for a broccoli.
I think the people at home have learned by this point that I'm not very conventional. when it
That's
comes
why
to the way
Bo
I do
has
things in
9
the
fingers,
kitchen.
everybody. You can count them. Just look for them on the video.
Which hopefully is a little bit of the point. Keep in mind, in my experience, the only way that you're going to learn to cook is to get in there and try.
Just try.
And most of the time you're cooking for your family. It doesn't have to be Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas dinner. And hey, they're going to eat it. We've all had bad meals before. So try things out. Throw in different things that you like and give it a shot. Throw in different flavors.
Yeah.
So I just recommend getting in and trying things. Again, I just had 3 broccoli heads. My experience is that a regular head of broccoli like this will feed 2 people. There's 6 of us. So I just went with 3. You can also buy the bags that already have the heads already separated.
Severed? No, kidding.
Aren't you
Severed head of broccoli.
Severed heads.
Aren't you really doing your kids a disservice if you don't serve them some questionable meals?
That's
Maybe.
true. They need to learn to be gracious when they're given something they don't care for.
So they can look back and...
Now, the only thing I would
Make fun
do,
of you
Your
later.
first car has to be a piece of junk.
sometimes you cut them off and you get like one that's huge still. So I might just cut them just to make sure that they're kind of the same size. I don't have to be crazy about it, but once we're done with that, then we're going to dump this in our little marinade. I'm just going to do
That's really
this.
interesting. See, I would have just like...
And then we're going to sprinkle those around.
Yes.
Now,
Me too.
normally
That
I
makes
would
more sense.
put
I would have put the marinade on top
my
and-
salt and pepper, my seasoning in that marinade, but broccoli's sticky. And so one of the problems you'll have with something like broccoli with all those little crevices in it is that you might put salt in there and all of the salt goes on one of the broccolis. And so we're going to sprinkle those with salt and pepper after we get them on our sheet.
That's really cool. Bo, you brought up something a minute ago about don't be afraid to try. I think that was something we walked into our marriage with was we still wanted to get it right. Like that first year, like
Right.
our cooking, we were either trying to follow the recipe exactly or we were almost too scared to try.
Right.
Like within
Right.
that.
I would agree.
What was y'all's kind of first year cooking experience like as you were getting to know each other? And
I think in terms of cooking, I mean, Beth does the majority of the cooking because that's really her skill and something that she enjoys. So I don't know that I can speak to that directly.
Oh, I definitely had the like, I messed up the dish. I'm a horrible wife,
Right.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
And like, I do have a lot of self doubt, unless it's, and sometimes it is really scary to try something. I tried I think a roast, and I was like, my mom used to make make a roast for Sunday, and I tried it, and it was just gray, and it just looked awful, and I was so upset, and it's not that I'm upset, I'm just upset with myself that
Right.
Yeah,
I
'cause you
couldn't
wanna
do
do
it, and
something
he
great,
eats it anyway, of course, but
Right. Yeah.
not bothered by it, but
No, I'm appreciative for the food and like Bo said, we'll try it. We'll try again next time, and it doesn't have to be perfect.
you don't have to make this again.
Also
yeah, we
true.
cooked a
We've said
lot
that
of
few
spaghetti our
times.
first year.
Yes, that
Yeah.
was one
Because
of
that's
the
what
few
we
dishes
had
we
to
would.
make.
Yes,
Yeah.
initially.
So one thing we'll do on these with cookies, I do 5 and 5 and then I test. So our sides should be set. These are real close. When you make cookies, there's kind of a cardinal rule in cookies. They're like scrambling eggs. By the time that they look done in the oven, that they're overcooked. So these are real close. I'm going to do about 1 more minute. There's still a tad of a sheen from the cookie dough just in the centers. And so I'm just going to put them in for like 1 more
It
minute.
smells good.
Man, that's so good to know.
That is good to know because, I tend to overcook our cookies, I'm afraid, and it with little bricks. They're sweet, but they're bricks.
Great dipped in milk, though.
Great for indoor hockey.
Yes, those are
but
perfect
no.
for milk.
Yeah, those were my mom's cookies. They were great hockey pucks.
Mine too.
But not.
We had lasagna. My mom would make lasagna, and that was a running joke with my brother and I still talk about it to this day. Was the top would get way overcooked, and we called it the hide. And so the lasagna, I mean, it was like a chew toy kind of thing. And so we still talk about it. Even we haven't had her lasagna in many, many, many years, but got to have that lasagna hide.
The lasagna
Yeah.
hide.
My mom had 4 dishes she could make, and then that was it. So
Oh wow.
she was a lot of things, but a cook was not quite what she was there. So I feel you on that one.
That's more
Yeah.
the kind of cook I am. I don't mind cooking at all,
Uh-huh.
but I need a plan. He does not enjoy a plan at all. He likes to be spontaneous and cook what we feel like cooking that day, which works really wonderfully until it doesn't, until
Yeah.
it's 5:30 or 6 and like, oh, me? Like, this is me? I better figure something out. So,
You just dump that.
okay. So we'll,
So we've let
grilled
this sit in
cheese,
here.
BLTs.
Now we're just dumping it. So this has all of our lemon juice and our lemon zest and our oil and everything on it. And I actually like, some of them will have a little bit more garlic than others. The one thing we do have to keep in mind is we haven't seasoned those yet.
So you kind of put it like in a single flat layer on the
Yeah,
pan.
you would definitely want it in a single flat layer. We'll put it up here so folks can see just kind of about what we're going to do on the salt side. This is kosher sea salt. I pretty much always use kosher sea salt. But that's pretty good for that. I also like fresh ground pepper as opposed to regular pepper, but you can do whatever you want in there. So those are pretty much ready to go. And then now our cookies should be done.
All right.
Out with one, in with the other, right?
Cookies before dinner? Yes.
All right, so when we take cookies out of the pan, I usually make these with cookie sheets that do not have lips.
Yeah.
But
Nicely done.
we want to take them off of this because that's hot and that'll make the bottoms of them black.
Oh. So that
Kinda
keeps
overcooks
cooking, what you were talking about a little earlier?
Yeah, now they're going to keep cooking anyway, just because, they're hot.
do
So
they call
things
that,
keep
carryover?
cooking. They have carryover temperature, just like you were cooking a brisket. I'm not real sure. Yours is going to taste good. You're overachieving one.
Or a Frankenstein cookie.
I'm not sure how well it's going to stick together.
I think that's ours on the far
That's
end.
all right.
Yeah, ours is on the other end.
Yeah, I can change that around.
That's all
I'll
right.
burn myself in the process. All right. So our cookies are out. You said these are yours?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
All right. This is David's.
Well, they could cool now, right? We're not actually eating them now.
Well, I don't know.
Oh, dessert
could be
was the
convinced.
first course, right?
All right.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Dessert tends to be kind of the fun side of a meal. There's also kind of the fun side of marriage. Like Matthew and Beth, what do you guys like to do for fun? What helps you guys stay connected as a couple?
Oh my goodness. We laugh and we just joke a lot. I mean, it's kind of funny, but I mean, I still am pretty serious and pretty straight-laced. And then I met her and she pulled the silliness out of me that I never knew I had.
Oh, that's
So-
awesome.
I
We
love
often
that.
say I found his warm, gooey center.
That's very true.
Oh, appropriate. They were eating cookies.
Right?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah, so I mean, that's a big part of it is just being silly around the house. And I don't know, it's kind of, silly, but you hear little jingles on the radio or some catchy song comes to mind, and we'll like replace some of the words with our dogs' names and just kind of make the songs about our dogs, but the same melody.
It's quite terrible, actually.
Ridiculous stuff like that.
I regularly say I'm a 14-year-old stuck in an adult
Yes.
body, which is why I'm so great at
Yeah, there you
teaching
go.
middle school. So, yeah,
That's a gift right
a
there.
lot of goofiness and silliness and
Just making each other laugh and smile.
oh
yeah.
yes,
It's important. I
Yeah.
like that. Mm-hmm. That is so
All right, so our cookies are done.
I'll slide those over here.
They need
We got
to
our
cool.
chicken prepped. We have our
take
broccoli prepped. Now we're going to make some rice to go along with our dinner.
Bo, I'm anxious about this one because I don't think we've tried really hard. I think we've ever made rice well at our house.
Quite
I
mastered
just did
the
the
rice.
So this is the
90-second
part
thing,
where
the
we're, like,
microwave
zeroed in
90
on
second
now.
thing. That's what we do.
Okay, so rice, obviously there's different types of rice. For the most part, or the rice that we're cooking tonight, it's just long grain white rice. So you have like a short grain white rice, which would be more for making something. What's the Italian like? What's that Italian?
Orzo?
Risotto.
Yeah, like a risotto. It has more starch in it, like the short grain stuff. This longer grain stuff. So this is like the long grain white rice we're going to use is just the stuff that's grown in Texas. It's grown in Mexico. It's the standard rice. The cool thing about plain white rice is that it's always going to follow a 2-to-1 ratio of liquid to the rice itself. So
2-to-1.
I typically, since we have plenty of other things to consume, I would go with about 1/3 a cup per person or per couple because we're going to be putting this on some other stuff. And so I'm just basically going to go with 1 cup of rice for the 6 of us. And since we're going 2-to-1, then I'm going to do 2 cups of chicken stock. So I like this Le Creuset pan, but you just any pan you want to use. And so since we're going 2-to-1 and we're cooking a cup of rice, I'm going to put 2 cups of this in here.
And that's chicken stock?
This is chicken stock, yes.
Okay.
You could use chicken broth. You could just use plain water if you wanted to. You could do half and half. Sometimes I'll only have like a cup of this, and so I'll just, do a cup of chicken stock and a cup of water.
Is that purely for flavor, or is it really?
Yeah, just flavor. Nothing to do with the cooking side. All this is doing is serving the form of liquid. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter. You could cook it in Kool-Aid if you wanted to. You could cook it in beer if you wanted to. It's liquid.
Interesting idea.
Creative.
A
I'm
light
gonna
beer
try it.
versus a full lager.
The other thing is, we're going to end up making a pan gravy. So I'm not going to flavor this rice a lot. If you wanted, you could put onions in here, little carrots frozen. If you put if you have the little frozen medley in the freezer, you could throw some of those in there. You can do whatever you wanted, even like canned tomatoes or pimento, stuff like that, just to change some of the flavors of your rice. But since we're going to do like a pan gravy later with our chicken, I'm just sticking with this. So we got 2 cups of that. We're going to go with a cup of this long grain rice.
We're all waiting with this hushed awe.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and then one thing I'm going to do, when the rice is stored in your in a bag in your little kettle or whatever it is, it's got all kinds of, you've all seen it, like the little powder that's on your rice, and that's just all starch. So that's stuff that if we don't rinse off is going to go into our water and tend to make it stickier. So I would tend to just rinse this before.
Interesting.
You could
I've
put
never
something
rinsed my rice
under it if you wanted to and say, hey, run it till it runs clear. But I just usually give it about 30 seconds. And I do that while our liquid is heating up.
I've never heard of doing that.
Me neither.
Did you guys ever?
No, I think
one of
don't
those
you have to
things-
do the same kind of thing with potatoes, like rinse off the starch so that you
You're
can
gonna
get
make
them
them fries.
crispy.
Oh,
You're gonna
really?
make
Okay.
fries. That is my nemesis.
How
is
about
making
pasta? Like-
Successful fries.
Do you have to do the same thing with pasta, or?
I don't think you want to do
You
it.
can. Pasta's fine because typically when I cook pasta afterwards, I'm going to put a little bit of sauce on it, and I want the pasta sticky to get the sauce to stick to it.
Oh, gotcha.
As soon as it gets out of the pan. A lot of people will cook pasta, and the first thing they do is rinse it all off, and they rinse the starch. And then when you put your sauce on it, nothing sticks to the pasta.
Yeah.
So I actually like my pasta a little bit sticky, just to have,
That's
once again, have that
I've
have
always
that
rinsed off the pasta.
stick to it.
Me too.
No, I know. The next batch of spaghetti will be amazing.
Well, there's always like a little puddle of water in the bottom of my dish, and that's probably why, is because it's not sticking.
So I like doing things completely backwards and completely crazy out of whack. We have plenty of cookies for both before and after our meal.
Cookie
So-
appetizer.
There's
I think
wisdom.
everybody should try at least a cookie or two. I think they should be about the perfect temperature now. They
This
should
is
still be a
nice.
little bit
Which one do you want to try?
Let me help you.
Oh, thank you, Andrew.
This is the chocolate
So
chip cookie.
if
This is
some of our
M&M.
folks that are
This is
following along
think
here
that's
have
peanut
their
butter,
completed
peanut
cookies,
butter.
Yeah.
It'd be a great time to, let us know how they look. Take a picture if you have a moment, and
Yeah.
let us know how your spouse
That's a
responded to
Butterscotch.
their favorite toppings
Definitely,
in the
our,
cookie.
our judges will announce a winner here
I
at
think
the end of the
that's
night.
your peanut butter and chocolate.
You can win a prize.
You can win a
You can win a
prize.
prize. So.
All right, should we give it a shot
So,
here?
all right,
David?
which one do you want to try?
Yeah, and as we mentioned, I think I put this on the recipe. Typically, chocolate chip cookies are cooked to an internal temperature of about 175.
These are
up
heavenly.
to maybe 185. They're very difficult to take internal temperature of because you might hit some stuff, or you might hit whatever. Again, the test I use is you want the edges to be a little bit firm, and you want that center to be flat, as opposed to still have that gloss on it. But it is going to seem like it's still a tad uncooked. But keep in mind, we've been sitting here for, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes. They should have the majority of the way cooked through. Since then, I like cookies to be soft and chewy. I don't like hard, crispy cookies. If you like them to be hard and crispy, then obviously you can leave them in a little longer until you start seeing some browning on the edges. What do we think?
These are heavenly.
Yum. So good. And I like that I can feel the oatmeal texture. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, oatmeal.
That is the chewiest cookie I've ever had.
Really?
Yeah.
So
It
to
is
me,
super good.
once again, I love the oatmeal. I like the flavor of the oatmeal. I like the fact that it gives it some texture. It's not flour and gluten. And because of what it does with moisture that's different than flour, flour is going to soak up all the moisture. Because of what it does that's different than that, I think, especially, a day or two from now, not that these will be here a day or two from now, but if you made 48 cookies, then a couple days later, they're still chewy and bendy and they don't turn hard.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh,
I
wow.
need another
Those
one.
are good.
What'd you guys put? How'd y'all
I had the butterscotch. Yum. And
This one
then
was M&M's
and just M&Ms.
yeah, just M&Ms.
Put red M&Ms all over it.
This is great.
How about yours? Good?
It's great. Yeah, I
Just
tried the
wanna taste
Frankenstein
this.
cookie, which was like everything that we could shove in the bowl.
Right?
And I
saw
tried
you
the
doing-
chocolate
Do you need a
toffee.
fork?
Amazing.
You had one overambitious cookie. Y'all had one overambitious
I
cookie.
like this one.
It doesn't look too overambitious. It looks appropriately
There you
ambitious.
go.
Yeah.
I like that.
It is not over at all.
The right level of
This is
business.
We
appropriate.
tend to overdo it at our house.
Okay, so we have our stock that's boiling. We're just going to add our
Pretty good.
rice to it. I'm going to do salt like I always do, which is about like that. I'm going to give it a stir, because that rice will probably cool down the water just a tad.
Andrew, did you already put the rice in?
He just
poured
dumped
it
the
Oh,
rice
just
in.
dumped it in? Right.
Yep, and then he added a little salt.
You're busy
and
eating a
stirred
cookie.
it.
Yeah, sorry, I was taking a bite of my
Good
cookie.
cookie brain.
So we did, yeah. So we did have, I did have this on medium high. Obviously we brought it to a boil. The next thing we're gonna do is, now that we're boiling again, which we are, okay, we're gonna cover it. We're gonna turn all the way to low. Then we're gonna set our timer for 18 minutes.
Crucial. The 18 minutes
Is that the
is
perfect-
crucial.
18 minutes is
Rice
uber
time.
crucial. And I will also say, because we just got back from Colorado last week, if you're at 8,000 feet, then that'll change the math. I didn't know this going in, but I did research, because I did cook some rice, and 18 minutes in, it still looked like just that. And so at 8,000 feet, water boils at 198 degrees, not 212. That's how much altitude affects
Oh, wow.
that. So we ended up having to cook it for about 30 minutes
Oh,
as
wow.
opposed to 18 minutes. So I've always seen, like, on a cake box for altitude
Sure.
adjust to this, but I've never cooked at altitude before. So anyway, but if you're, I don't know what we are here, maybe 700 feet. I think anything
About
under
550. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think anything under 1,000, you can go with the 18. What
also
we're going to do
100
with
degree
that
right
is keep it on low for 18 minutes. We're not going to look at it. Part of what we're doing in there is steaming it. So we don't want to keep peeking and checking. It's kind of like smoking a brisket. Every time you open that thing up, you're losing all the good stuff in there. So we're going to do that for 18 minutes. Once the 18-minute timer goes off, we're going to turn that thing off, throw that thing to the back, let it sit there. It's fine. It's not sticking. It's not going to mess up. And then we'll fluff it when we're ready to eat.
Nice.
That's awesome.
So we don't need a rice steamer? Like that thing you get as a wedding gift, that rice cooker thing?
Yeah, as Alton Brown would say, those are unitaskers, and they kind of only do one
It's
thing.
true. I like that.
And I get it. rice can be scary because it's coming out gummy or it's coming out this, and there's different types of rice. Again, I like sticking with just the long grain white rice. And if you're rinsing it ahead of time and you're following this procedure and using a 2-to-1 ratio, following your times, if you're 18 minutes, then it should come out just how we want it to.
Yeah.
Cool.
And
Good
again,
to know.
So the whole brown rice versus white rice, is it a really big deal, or is it just more of a flavor or texture thing?
well, brown rice is less processed than is white rice, but brown rice takes a lot longer to cook. So you're going to cook brown rice for more like 35 to 40 minutes as opposed to 18. So it's going to take you a lot longer to do it. I guess it's healthier.
Gotcha.
I'm
Like a
not-
husk or something on it, I think.
we're not really. We got broccoli's
We're
healthy.
eating
I wanna
cookies to
eat
start
that.
out with. Yes.
I
don't
kind
think
of
healthy is a
There's green
concern
on your
tonight.
plate, it's good.
yeah. I kind of stick to what I know and know how to do that. Once again, we made a plain rice. You could pour in some tomato sauce, some cumin, some taco seasoning, and turn it into Spanish rice.
Oh wow. Okay.
While it's in there. Maybe throw some cilantro in at the end or whatever. If you're doing something more Italian based, you could do some fennel and some basil and some stuff like that as part of your flavoring. But again, we're saving the predominant part of our flavoring is going to come from our pan sauce and our chicken.
So one more odd question. I'm brand new to cooking, or like when we were newlyweds,
Right.
we knew we needed to have a protein. Is there a formula to picking sides? Like I noticed you did a veggie, and is rice a veggie? Is that? Yeah.
I think old school, you would have a protein, and you would have a starch, and you would have a green.
Okay.
That's just always kind of how I've had it. So starches being, a rice, a potato, a pasta, something like that.
Mac and
you-
cheese.
You could get rid of this mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese is a veggie, right? Like, it's
Well, they
like,
say the
mac and
brighter the
cheese-
color, the
Dairy,
better it
right?
is for you.
Somehow
Yeah,
mac and cheese has
exactly.
become the main dish at
Yeah.
a kid, on the kids menu. You could get rid of this and toss a salad. But that's kind of the stuff I like too. I would say, are an interesting mix of we predominantly eat healthy. We don't eat out a whole lot. We like eating out, but we don't eat out a whole lot. We predominantly eat healthy. So, this meal we have.
But everybody has their own definition of healthy. So
Right.
other people would say that we don't eat healthy. So I would say we eat moderately healthy.
Yeah, we're not
There'll
crazy.
be something green.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, we got a lean protein. We're not fried and fat,
Right.
but we're also making a pan sauce and going to put some cream in there. So anyway, that's what we do. I'm going to go ahead and start getting ready to make our chicken. We have a cast iron skillet here.
cast iron.
Nice.
Now, what's unique about cast iron for those of us that have sunk
iron holds-
hundreds of dollars into?
Yeah, cast
Yeah,
iron
you
holds
non-stick
heat
fat.
well.
Your yeah.
So as opposed to something like this, which would get rocket hot in a hurry, then as soon as you put something in it, it's going to lose all of its temperature.
Oh wow.
Cast iron is going to hold heat for a long time. So when we finish cooking with this, 30 minutes later, that thing is still going to be hot to the touch.
Oh wow.
Wow.
The other thing I like about cast iron, certainly if I were scrambling eggs, then I would do that in a non-stick pan. But the thing I like about this is you can use any utensil on it. If you have a non-stick pan, and you got to stay away from like metal utensils or whatever.
Yeah, you have to be careful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we're sauteing / frying. I want some color. I want a little bit of stick. So I just think cast iron is great for what we're about to do here. You really shouldn't fry in non-stick pans. You can saute. You can use their non-stick properties, but above about 400 degrees, some of those can release some things that aren't
really?
great for
Okay.
you. And you'll also ruin them if you fry too much. Above about 450 degrees, those things start losing their non-stick factor. So we typically save our non-stick pans just for scrambled eggs, omelets, stuff like that.
Gotcha. I remember one Mother's Day, we bought our mom a brand new nonstick pan, and I thought I'd surprise her Mother's Day morning and made scrambled eggs with a fork in her brand new nonstick pan.
Did you really?
Yeah, there's like
Whoops.
the David Memorial gouge down the center
Oh my goodness.
of the thing.
You have
And she
never
kept
told
it
me that
forever, I
story
bet.
before.
I never told you that story?
No.
Oh man, yeah.
Learned something new tonight. That is funny.
All right, so we're going to get that thing rocket hot until we start seeing smoke coming off of it. Again, I want stick. I want, not burn, but I want some stick. when we're doing that. I'm going to go ahead and get a plate out because after we throw these things in a little bit, we're going to take some of this stuff off.
It's interesting how it's all starting to come together, like those side dishes and the main dish and things like that, but how those side dishes kind of make the meal,
They do.
you know,
I
complement
agree.
things. So, and y'all, so okay, here's the tough question, the nitty-gritty
Ready.
question. In marriage and kind of like the daily grind, what are the things that you guys do that complement, that you've just kind of discovered over the years that complement each other, just to keep the day going? Like, I learned we didn't drink coffee for the first few years of our marriage,
We
and then
didn't.
we got into coffee.
Just
So I figured
recently.
out that it helps Jamie when I make that first cup of coffee for her as we're moving into the day.
I love that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what. And then when you do all my work for me, no, I'm just kidding.
Really helpful, isn't
When you
it?
do all the lawn work, no, it's kidding. I'm really kidding. Yeah, how
Yes,
about you
don't
guys?
worry, I don't do
That's
that.
just in
Oh,
the
gosh.
daily grind of marriage. What connects you
gosh.
guys? And
I think one thing that we kind of learned early on, I like the analogy, you mentioned yard work, is that Beth is, what do we say? We said Beth is the lawnmower, and then I'm the trimmer or the weed whacker. Like, she can come in, get things knocked out,
Big
big
picture.
picture person, but then, it's good for me to be on hand to kind of help iron out the details a lot of times.
Like that.
So, or we've also said, like, Beth's the dreamer, and I'm the one who makes dreams come true.
Isn't that sweet?
oh man, I like that.
But I mean that in the idea of
They
like,
win the next prize.
Right.
He's like the numbers guy, and the okay.
But yeah,
this,
she
this, and
comes up
this,
with
and
the
I'm,
ideas
you know,
and some of the visions for for what she wants to do, or maybe what we want to do as a family. And then God has built me to be kind of an engineer and a detail-minded person, so I can sit down and say, okay, well, to make that happen, we're going to need X amount of money, and we're going to need these particular equipment, or we're going to have to rearrange a room. But yeah, that's one of the great ways I think that God brought us together to complement each other.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. I love that word.
I don't know if that was the question you asked.
Oh,
but I
yeah,
think it's a
no,
pretty
that's
good
exactly
answer.
And you also
it.
was like super practical. I have a practical one.
Okay.
We discovered very early on, I am the early bird.
Yes.
And I mean, I'm up at like usually 5:30 or something, and he, no.
No.
And so we discovered like we can't have any sort of real conversation of depth really after 9:30 p.m. because I'm gone, and then for him like really pretty much before 9:30 a.m.
Yeah.
And so we kind of came to that conclusion of like we're just not going to have any sort of important discussions at either of those times.
Wow.
And it was stuff like when we were
Yes.
decorating our kitchen and what kind of handles are we going to have. I'm like, I can't talk about this right now. It's 10:30.
Or if you want to sneak something in, you do it between.
Yes.
Well, and we knew this early on, but it wasn't until, I don't know, maybe a year or two we'd been married, and Beth kind of had an aha moment. She's like, oh, and she says to me, the way you feel before 9:30 is the way I feel after 9:30. Before
That was
9:30
a
in the
click
morning,
for us.
after 9:30 in the evening. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, that makes perfect sense. Like, that helps me to understand her. Like,
Yeah.
I know how I feel first thing in the morning. Now I understand that that's how she feels, late in the evening.
Yeah. That's so great. The researchers, John and Julie Gottman, they run a marriage and relationship
Yeah.
clinic up in University of Washington. They call that love maps.
They do.
So like you're constantly learning the map to your spouse's heart
Yes.
within that. And
Just how to make those
practical
connections deeper.
things. So, Bo, I see that chicken. I think is ready
Yeah,
for.
your
smelling
pan
it. I'm
is,
smelling the
for
heat.
some-
smoking.
yeah, all the wind's going that way. All the air's going that way. We're trying.
All right, so we can see this is crazy hot. It's smoking. We don't even have anything in there. It's
Sure
just smoking, but that's how we want it because we want this thing kind of stupid hot.
Oh wow,
Listen to that sound, y'all.
sounds amazing.
That's
That's some
good.
sizzle right there.
Oh my. What's in this one?
Gotta do some caramel.
Wow. That's good. That's the winner.
So you were saying you can use any utensil, so you could take like a metal spatula and flip that chicken over?
I guess we
Yeah.
can.
So depending on how much liquid you put in there, if you have more oil or more buttermilk or whatever, you could still have some liquid left in here. We don't need that. We're just going to take whatever is stuck to our chicken and throw it in there. That's pretty full. It's about as full as we could get. Just putting 8 in that.
Gotcha.
But we want to leave it alone.
Smells so good.
for about 5 or 6 minutes so that hopefully it can get some color. After about 5 minutes, we'll start looking at one of those things and seeing if we got color that we like. So on this, we're not worried about cooking it to 165 or this or that right now. We're just going to look until it looks pretty.
Gotcha.
We're going to flip up
Get a
and look at it a
crust.
little bit and like, that looks like I want it to look, and then we'll flip it over.
Okay.
Make sense?
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, because
and
chicken can be
again-
one of those scary things that they like really
Needs to
kind
be
of
done,
It needs
right?
to be done. Yeah, yeah. And then I tend to dry ours out. I overcook it as a result.
Right. So we went once again, we went about as hot as that thing could get, which was good. And again, these could be steaks, any cut of steak that you wanted. It could be pork chops. These could be chicken breasts. We could do whatever we wanted to.
And aren't thighs a little harder to dry out because of the fat content?
Exactly.
Like, I feel like chicken breasts, in an
yeah.
instant, you're almost there and then it's over.
It's like an avocado. Not ripe, not ripe. Oh,
Yes, that's our toaster
Yeah.
oven story I told you about. We put the rolls in the thing and the toaster. Okay, you turn your back to judge the pan, and then you turn back around and it's black. I'm like,
Little
yeah.
Burnt.
spatula thingy.
I
Well, it's
don't know
interesting
what-
how many things that we've been cooking tonight where
Oh, honey.
you have to kind of use the momentum to coast into the harbor, so to speak.
the timing.
Yeah, the timing is everything.
Critical.
Within that.
That's the hardest thing about Christmas dinner and Thanksgiving dinner, I think, is the timing. I'm so bad at that. Something's getting cold because I've made it too early, and
Where it is?
yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know what you're looking for.
You know, the main dish as we're cooking it is a great metaphor for just what's important in marriage.
Oh, yeah.
You always talk about kind of this idea of how does putting God first, like individually and in our marriage,
Definitely important in
help out.
marriage. Yes.
How do you guys encourage each other when it comes to your walk with God? Like, how does that factor into your marriage? 'Cause we'd like to answer that too here in just a second, but how about you guys? Like, how was that important as you guys met and got married? And
Oh gosh, it's hard to distill that down to a short answer, but
yeah, we got time.
But I mean, we met at Stonebriar, we met at church, and that's been a consistent thing for us really since we've been dating is going to church together, going to Sunday school, and not just going to church, right? To go to church, but really making God an integral part of our lives.
Yeah.
So, I think it's easy when you're first dating to just you kind of wade into it, and we're going to church. Well, what did you think about the sermon? And kind of start with kind of the easier questions. But I think as the years have gone by, we've gotten better about, well, this is what I read this morning, and here's what I got out of it. What do you think? Or I don't understand it. So do you have any ideas? As we face challenges in life, either as a couple or individually, we've learned to ask that question, like, okay, well, what does the scripture have to say about this topic? And it's something that takes time. It's a habit to build because, my tendency is to, well, what do you think? Or certainly before we were married, I just call my dad because my dad, I have a world of respect for him. He's got all the answers, right? He's a dad. That's how it works.
Yeah.
And he usually does. And I had to break that habit of like, no, I need to go to my heavenly dad first.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so I think that's something that we've developed a habit of as a couple is when we have those challenges, let's pray about it. Let's see what the scripture has to say about it. And I think in some ways it's just gotten to be, especially over the past several months with everything that's going on in society, there's always some kind of question, some hardship to talk about. Even if it's not us directly, it's what we see in the world. And so just as we have those conversations, we try to turn it towards like, okay, we've heard what the world has to say. We've seen what's on social media and on the news. Let's stop and make sure that we're thinking biblically about this.
Yeah. Wow, that's so true.
That's so great.
Remember Jamie told me early on, she said, it's funny, early on, if you grow up in church, they always tell you, okay, one of the check boxes is find someone who knows Jesus. But then, like you were saying, that I love what you described, that crossroads where it wasn't just, do you have a relationship with God through Jesus? How am I investing? Like, how am I helping cultivate that
Right.
within
Absolutely.
that? So, Andrea, how about you guys? How does that cultivate y'all's in y'all's marriage? Just encouraging each other and following Jesus and
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that we spend time with the Lord very differently. You know, our quiet times look different from one another. And so it's just growing to love that about each other and, you know, still checking in with each other and just having a framework in our home that we are talking about spiritual things on a daily basis, undoubtedly, within as a marriage or with our children. You know, we're always looking at whatever comes our way through a biblical worldview. So how do we respond? But then, yeah, of course, checking in with each other as far as like how we're growing in God's word and praying through tough stuff together. I don't know. There's seasons. It ebbs and flows. It's not the same as when our marriage started out, for sure. Those trials definitely grow you closer together and grow you closer to God and help you to truly not sweat the small stuff the way you might have at the beginning.
Yeah.
When you guys were talking about your different ways that you work well together, it just reminded me in the early years of our marriage how guilty I was of comparison, you know, of just letting that rob so much of our joy of like, oh, really? You know, he makes you your first cup of coffee. Like, why don't we do that? We should do that, you know, and then, you know, just
True.
the seasoning of time together has really helped us to find our own personal way, you know, of how we love each other well, and it's not going to look like anybody else, you know.
It's true. That is true.
Those have been so encouraging.
That is encouraging.
Yeah.
I agree.
Definitely so. Bo, I saw you added something in there to the
Yeah,
dish.
so
What do you
Moscato.
got?
Yeah, so
Love Moscato.
I took out my chicken. I got it looking like I wanted. Do you want to show everybody that chicken?
I'd love to show everybody the
Yeah,
chicken.
what were you looking for with that?
Yeah. Well, I really like crispy. I like the little burnt parts. That's just
Ooh,
what I like.
yum. Yes.
But
Burnt ends
once
on the
again,
chicken.
all we're looking for is how we wanted the exterior of it. We weren't worried at all. Then we just heard our timer. So our rice is done.
Oh, all right. I'm like, what's in there?
We'll just throw that. We'll just throw that in the back there and let it
Yeah.
let it do what it does. So now we're gonna make a pan sauce. So the first thing I did, I just took some white wine and deglazed this. So we got all of the goody, sticky stuff from the bottom of that pan.
So does deglaze just mean it kind of absorbed all the stuff that was
Yeah,
sticking
so
there?
it's basically a solvent. You know, I mean, it's wine, but you know, water is the natural solvent. Any kind of water in here, it's also a good tip when you fry something and it's a mess and you got to clean it up, to throw some water in it and get it boiling again, and then you can just scrape the bottom of it and it'll come up for you. But anyway, so we just put
Handy
wine
tip.
in there. If you don't want to use wine, you could deglaze with just water, or you could just use double the chicken stock. I think we said a half cup and a half cup in our recipe. So I went with a half a cup of wine, and then we're also going to put in a half cup of chicken stock, I'm guessing.
A little more than half a cup.
Thank you. And then we'll stir all that up. So in here, we're basically going to turn this into a pan gravy. The reason we didn't have to worry about fully cooking our chicken, we just got to have it how we wanted to, because we're going to cheat. We're going to throw it all back in there in a little bit. So then it's just going to
That makes
braise
sense.
for a little bit. So as soon as this comes back into a boil, we're going to put our chicken back in there. So I'm calling this a gravy. It's not actually a gravy. We're actually just taking liquids and we're boiling it down until we get a consistency we want to. We're not adding flour. We're not adding cornstarch. So typically you would add flour with some fat to start, make a roux, and then add your liquids to make a gravy. Or if you were making like a brighter sauce, you would take that or something with acidic, and you would put a slurry of cornstarch in after the fact to thicken that.
So you use that term braised. What does that mean?
Braised?
Yeah,
So
you're gonna-
braised is like simmering in water.
Okay.
So when you take, like for example, if you cook ribs and then you wrap them in foil, you're in essence braising ribs.
Okay.
You're steaming.
Steaming it.
Yeah.
So that's what really breaks down protein, but you're not losing moisture. I mean, obviously we're going to lose some as it's going, but you know, when you wrap something in foil, That's what keeps all the moisture in there, and so you're steaming it to keep it in there. So we're going to let this come to a simmer. Here you kind of have a full palette as far as, hey, what else do I want to add to this? What else would I want to do to this? What else? What other things would I want to add? I like throwing some basil in. I just like basil. My two favorite herbs are basil and cilantro. I just like the flavors that they impart on things. I don't know, what would we put on the recipe for our pan sauce?
Pan sauce.
I think it's that on the first page.
Yes. Let's see here. We have chicken stock, the white wine. Yeah, you put the 1/4 cup of cream or half and half
Right.
as an option. Then just 4 tablespoons of butter.
Okay.
Need more butter.
So we didn't add anything.
Nope, you didn't. You just kind of left it.
Yeah,
It's
we
just
probably
about
did.
2 tablespoons.
I'll
Yeah,
tell
we
you
need
what,
more
while
than
he's prepping that, I think it's time for another challenge.
I think it is.
Maybe
So
it is.
we kind of talked about making the rice on the stovetop, right? So when David and I first got married, we received a lot of wedding gifts, or we went out and bought things for our kitchen that we thought we might need. And one of those items happened to be, the rice cooker. And that and a bread maker. The rice cooker got a little bit of use.
Yeah,
The
we
bread
ended up
maker-
boiling a lot of water with it.
Yes, that's true. And then the bread maker still sits in the bottom of the pantry, never used once. So sad.
So look for it on Facebook Marketplace.
Who was it from? That's important.
Yes. So here's kind of our challenge. We were wondering, is there an item in your kitchen that you purchased or was given to you as a gift at some point that you really believed, or you registered for it, for example, that you really believed that you were going to need, that you were just going to get so much use out of, and it was definitely worth the investment for that? And yeah, we would love to hear about that. So, write in the comments about that useless kitchen item, or bonus points if
Yeah,
you can give
show
us a picture.
If you can dig it out from somewhere,
And
show
yes,
us that picture.
there is a prize involved. Can I show them one of my favorite things, though?
Sure,
Since
yeah,
we're kind of this
same
point
thing,
in
like-
the show here. So, something that ended up being one of my favorite purchases for our kitchen is this very interesting oven mitt. This is one of those silicone oven mitts, and it is a gorgeous orange. I don't know. It's kind of a 1970s kind of feel, like kitchen
It's not
countertop
from the
orange.
70s.
No,
It
it's
just
not.
looks like it.
Silicone back then.
And I love this thing. When I need to pull something out of the oven, quick, fast, and in a hurry, because usually I'm overcooking it and it's got to come out fast, or I need to touch a hot pan, this thing works so great. So this is one of my favorite purchases. And because it's so orange and bright, it doesn't get lost in my kitchen decor. I can easily spot it, grab it, and I'm good to go. So this is one of my favorite things. So one of these silicone oven mitts could possibly be a good prize we would have sent to you.
I think so.
Yeah,
You
if
get
our
that
judges
picture
choose.
Prize.
of
Yep.
your most useless or
It doesn't
underused
necessarily-
kitchen
yeah.
item.
Maybe a
And
prettier color.
You could
but
possibly win one of those tonight.
that'd be
When we do
great.
that. So, good job. Well, Bo, how are we doing over there, bud?
We're doing well. So I did add some basil just from the jar because I wanted to, and you can do whatever you want when you're cooking. And again, it's one of my favorite flavors. Probably a tablespoon. I just threw
Nobody
in there.
puts basil in
Again,
the corner.
the recipe doesn't call for it. I also have some fresh basil, which is the best. And so I also have some fresh basil too. So we're going to chiffon or dice that up at the very end, and we'll sprinkle it on our thing.
Ooh, nice.
I'm not really a presentation guy, but hey, it makes it look prettier. And again, I can't have enough
That's
basil.
good.
So I threw a little bit of that in there. I threw a few grounds of pepper in there, and then I put our chicken back in there. So now we just crank this thing back up to high. It's going to boil for a little bit. I think this will take about 15 minutes. Just while this is boiling. So basically, this sauce is just going to keep evaporating. It'll continue to cook this chicken down to how we want it to. And we're basically looking. Things vary depending on how well I did this, as to how much liquid is in there. But basically, we want to get to a point. I don't know if we can see this right now. You'll see the sauce start to thicken where the bubbles get real tiny.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
And then if you took a spoon and you put it in there, you would see that you could make it would coat the back of a spoon is what they would say, or a nappe in actual cooking terms. To where if you run your finger across it or run your finger through it, it stays there as
Yeah.
opposed to dripping. Because if we were to do that right now, we're not going to be able to. If we did that right now, we just see that there's a liquid and there's no way we can run our finger through it. Whereas after this thickens up after about 15 minutes or so, then we will be able to do that. So basically we're getting a thickened sauce, or I'm calling it a gravy, but we actually didn't add any flour to it, and we're actually not going to add any cornstarch to it either. We're just evaporating it down or reducing it, as we would say in cooking terms, I guess. So we'll just
It's a
do that.
reduction sauce.
I'm sorry?
It's a reduction sauce.
It's a reduction sauce.
That
It is.
sounds so
Yeah.
fancy.
In fact,
It does.
Look
in
at us
fact,
cooking fancy.
It's a wine reduction sauce.
Oh.
You know why?
There you go.
Because we put wine in it.
That's true.
That's
Eureka.
a wine reduction sauce. So anyway, that's also going to more than thoroughly get our chicken to the internal temp that we want it to. So that, once again, by putting it in this bath and letting it do this for a while, it gives us all the flexibility in the world. Since these are chicken thighs, we have even more flexibility because they're fatty. So we're going to let it do that for a little bit, probably about 5 minutes from now. Keep in mind, our rice is done. As
Okay.
soon as we took it off and threw it on the back there, it's done. It's ready to go. We can have it whenever we want.
But you didn't open the lid or anything,
Nope,
right? You
nope.
just trust.
You
that
just
it's
did it
done.
based on
You
the
know
time.
it.
Yeah. So we're going to let this start boiling for about 5 minutes until I see it reduce just a little bit. Then we're going to get our broccoli in the oven. Our broccoli is going to take about 10 minutes. I have our oven set on 400 on convection. If you don't have convection, I would put it at 425. We want high and hot, but we don't want broil because we do want it
Okay.
the entire,
Oh, good to
entire
know.
oven.
I'm gonna try that.
We don't want to overcook the broccoli. So we're going to throw it in there for 10 minutes, and as soon as we start seeing little chars on there, then we're going to take it out. But we're going to have that at the very end. And then we just got some easy baked bread here that we're going to throw in just so we have some bread to go with it. But for the time being, we have about 5 minutes until we move on to that.
That's awesome. Let's jump into another question then.
Yeah.
Definitely
Cool.
so. I think it's interesting.
Well, before we move on, I don't
Yeah.
think you had a chance to answer the question of how you and
So
Jamie
next
challenge
question.
each other.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Exactly.
No, you
Yeah.
said you had an answer, so I want to make sure
Yeah.
that we get
Wait,
to
which
hear
one are we
it.
talking about?
The one how we just how God factors into our
Oh,
marriage, how
yeah,
the
yeah,
Lord.
yeah, yeah.
in-
You know, it's interesting. So I heard this question the other day, and I think for us, it's kind of distilled what that looks like. I was part of kind of a conversation, and the guy leading it said, "Do you pray for your spouse?" And all the guys that were on the call said, "Oh yeah, no, I pray for my spouse, in the car when I'm going to work, etc." And he said, "Do you pray with your spouse?" And actually, some of the guys kind of stopped and thought about it, and they're like, "You know what? We actually don't do that. Like we pray for each other all the time, like faithfully, we're in God's word, but that kind of went to a different level of intimacy to go, wow, you know what?
Pray
Am
with
I
each other, yeah.
sharing this special moment with you to talk to God and to talk to God together about each other and with each other?" And that was something that quite by accident, I think we had just kind of gotten in the habit of doing with some circumstances that had happened in our marriage where we didn't have anything else to do but to pray.
We were left
So-
with nothing but to pray. Yeah.
so it's kind of neat to go, you know what? And the principle obviously was, hey, how do I nurture your relationship with God? But to see that, man, and I think Jamie told me, you told me a long time ago, she said if we weren't followers of Jesus together, that would be a whole area of my life that you would appreciate, but we could never connect on within that. So it's led us to an appreciation to go, you know what? At least that first practice of saying we pray with each other helps break down some of those barriers and to have, like you were saying, the deeper conversations of, hey,
Yeah.
what did your time in God's word and what do you need me to pray for you for? So I don't know, do you want to kind of expand on that a little bit too, or?
Well, I was going to actually go in a slightly different direction. I totally agree. And
Yeah,
I think it's
absolutely.
also probably one of those things that can feel kind of not natural at first. Like, you know, I can pray to God in my head. Okay, got it. And I can even pray for someone else, including my spouse. Sure. But to pray with, you know, that means praying to the Lord out loud and the other person's hearing what I'm saying. And it just takes time. But I agree. Like, making it a habit, just trying it, kind of like the cookie recipe, you know, like just experiment, like just try praying together, even if it's just the words are awkward and it feels awkward. I really believe that just the connection that's made with each other is a deep one, and it grows each other towards the Lord.
Yeah.
But another thing that I was going to say too is that I just know that I really need to spend time with the Lord on my own. I need to have a right mind frame with the Lord, connection with Him through my own, time in God's Word or a devotional book, prayer, just listening to some good Christian music from time to time, and make sure that my heart and mind are in tune with the Lord's, because I am a much better wife to my husband when I have made sure that connection. When there's seasons where I'm just not doing it like I really should, where I just am so busy, I'm not even factoring the Lord into my life at that time, I am not a very good wife. It shows.
No, and vice versa.
Yeah.
In fact, that's kind of become the running joke is, doesn't ask now, like, are you okay? It's, did you spend some time with the
Spent
Lord?
time with Jesus today.
Did you have a nap today?
Oh, you caught me.
Or the scarier one, we were in an argument one time, and I'm sorry, we were in a conversation one time.
Conversation.
And Jamie turned to me. She'd been spending time with the Lord. I had not. And she just turned to me and said, you know what? I'm going to trust you and do what you're obviously trying to convince me to do. But it's not because it's basically, you said, it's not because you're right. It's just, I know that you're going to go work this out with the Lord. And it was like, whoa, like, okay.
Snap.
Yeah, I'm more accountable there than I am here. So that was a good one.
So that's how the Lord factors into our marriage quite a bit.
Yeah, that's a big
Well,
one.
and I think Andrea mentioned it earlier. Our time with the Lord individually is very different. She is 5:30 in the morning, sit down, get her Bible out, and do that stuff. For the past 5 years, people have asked me, well, what are you doing in your quiet time? And I go, it's just quiet. I don't do anything. And it took a lot of practice because I was used to checking the boxes of the things, I guess, that other people did that I respected. And so my time now is purely just quiet time. And during that time, I leave that centered in a good place. My priority list is straight. If I was frustrated about something, he tends to take that from me. He just gets me in a good place to move through my day, and he'll lead me to scripture sometimes, like, oh, go pull your old journal out, or hey, remember that time you were reading through this, or maybe it's an old message that Chuck gave or whatever. But there's all the freedom in the world in me, and then I get to spend time with our God as I would a human being. It's purely just relationship, and I'm not having to do anything that looks like what other people think that needs to look like.
Wow.
And so that's just been great for me, and hopefully for us over the past 5 years, even though we once again approach our relationship with the Lord.
And what a great
separately.
encouragement, that freedom that as we learn to be with our Savior, it relaxes us to be with our spouse. Like those expectations drop, those things, you've got to make me happy. It just helps connect in that way. I think there's a really neat parallel.
I'm just throwing these
Oh, okay,
in.
you're just-
No,
I was
nothing.
like, he's going to reveal some new magic.
There's a very special way you have to throw this in there. Make sure that all of it goes in here.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I'm one of those, like, I'm either all in or I'm so scared of messing it up that I'm not going to try it. And just cooking with you guys here, I mean, watching you guys do it, explaining and answering my sometimes juvenile questions, like, just the anxiety level is low to go, I mean, okay, I'm not gonna, I'll just try it. And this is how the flavors combine and different things like that. I think there was an interesting observation when the quarantine, when COVID first started and everything was kind of going a little nuts that first week in March, or, that after spring break, we ran to the store and we thought, okay, we're going to cook at home. Like, we're going to be at home. And we went, and in the frozen foods aisle at Walmart, all the Hot Pockets and frozen pizzas were gone.
Gone.
They were just gone. And I was like, oh, man.
Hold on. Wait a minute.
Yeah,
My cooking skills are a little past that.
Oh, no. Yours are. Mine
Oh,
aren't.
okay. I see
So,
what you mean.
yeah, Jamie's are, definitely, but mine aren't. But it's interesting that, as you've been talking about, just the more you do something, the better you are at it. Not that you have to succeed every time, but you just get into the habit of
The small
doing
things.
that. Yeah. Ted Lowe uses this phrase, practice your promise. It's kind of like showing up every day to do the work of marriage. And when we were talking and preparing for tonight, Bo, you mentioned that idea that people buy a lot of processed food or eat out because it's an easy way to farm out the work that you're doing that you can do at home. Not that you should do, but that you can do at home. So what a great challenge to go. I mean, the more you bring it in, you don't have to be perfect at it. It's just showing up every day to do the work of the relationship.
Doing the work of it. Yeah.
And so
Even
if
that
y'all, I don't know if we can do this on TV, but if you want to come see, I just turned it way down. If you can see what these bubbles look like.
Yes.
I'm going to stand
I'll get out of the way.
Oh, yeah, they're kind of slow.
Yeah, so we got slow, and you can kind of see where these are thicker bubbles.
Yes.
And so I had it going about as fast as it could to start. But these are like, you can see these are thicker bubbles, and it looks just like boiling water. It doesn't look like that anymore. It's starting to thicken up. So I've turned it down because we're starting to get kind of where we want to.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Coats the back of the
See that? So I got it on low. We have 7 minutes left on our broccoli. I'm going to add a little bit of cream to this. This is just heavy whipping cream. It could be half and half. You don't have to do it. As I said, we eat somewhat healthy and somewhat not healthy. So I'm just going to throw a little bit of cream in here. What does our recipe call for?
Pan sauce, a quarter cup.
Quarter cup? All right, we're going to call that a quarter cup. Again, not going to mess anything up. I'm just going to stir a little bit.
Now, is the cream just thickening it up? Or
It's
is
really
it-
just adding cream to it. It's almost like, you know, like making an Alfredo.
Cream to your coffee. Rich it up.
It just gives it a creamy and a richness. Because we put so much paprika in this, and keep in mind paprikas are chilies, but they're not hot chilies. So this will have a very smoky flavor, and cream will kind of smooth that smokiness out, if that makes sense. And so this would pretty much be ready to go. With any kind of sauce like this, you'll always finish with a couple tablespoons or whatever of butter, just to stir it. That gives it that kind of silky gleam or finish to it at the very end. But this is basically ready to go. The chicken's ready. Our sauce is ready. Oh, I'm going to throw this fancy homemade bread that we got. I'm just going to throw it in here to warm it up. We can see our broccoli. Right now, when we first start doing it, it turns bright, which is kind of what we want. We still have about 5 minutes left, so we'll start getting a little bit of crust on the end. But we want our broccoli to be tender, but still have snap to it. We don't want to crush it. I think also at the very end, I'm going to add just a little more lemon juice to that broccoli just to finish it. Lemon's great at the end of everything just because it brightens up and gives flavor. Even when you make a steak, like if you grill steak and it has like the grill marks on the steak and you put some butter on it as it rests, you take a little bit of fresh lemon juice on there, that acid and that pop just all of a sudden brings out, it makes it taste, it's kind of like salt does for sweet. Lemon makes things taste more, poppy tastes more like. Now I don't want seeds, so I'm going to.
So we're talking about the work of marriage, like the showing up every day. What's the easiest or most challenging thing that we face in our marriages when we do that? And I'll start with mine. It's making the bed. Like I want to get up and just move it on my day, but Jamie's like, no, let's stop. Let's make the bed.
You make the bed?
And put. I think there's like 40 pillows that are stacked.
Not 40.
No, there's not 40. There's 39. So no, I'm just kidding. That's a challenging one for me, is making the bed. I just get up and start moving. But I've noticed that slowing down and making the bed, actually, I was tracking it. I'm more likely to have my quiet time because the room's settled if I do that than if I don't. If I could just get up and start doing, like the temptation of just jumping into work is right there. So I don't know. How about you guys? Like, what is the work of marriage or the showing up every day? What are the fun things and the challenging things?
I think for the day-to-day, I think the slowing down is something that, well, definitely recent weeks have kind of forced you to do, right? But early on in our marriage, I thought I was a very level-headed, steady person, and then I got married and I was like, I'm a mess. I'm all over the place. But we kind of discovered early on that my tendency can be to be a bit of a bulldozer, like, and not wait and just listen. And that was actually really interesting when we first started dating and we were on the phone and there would be silence. And I'm like,
I'm terrible on the phone.
oh my goodness, somebody speak.
Don't call me, I'm awkward.
I can't take the silence. I can't take it. And that's something that I've definitely learned from him is like, stop talking. You don't have to fill up the silence. Just stop and let him finish. And I'm not great at it. I still tend to like jump in and have my thought or whatever. But that's
so
something.
Kind of taught you to be in the moment.
Yeah, to let him finish his thought, and because my brain's going like, I mean, yours going probably a million times faster than mine, but my mouth sometimes goes faster than my brain, and then it can run over what he has to say and that kind of stuff. So that's something I have to work on a daily basis, and I have to close my mouth and let him talk. So.
I think for me, similar to that is kind of going the other direction that. I have a tendency to be, as I said earlier, very detail oriented. I want to make a plan. If I'm going to buy something online, I'm going to spend 2 hours finding the best price and feel good that I saved 50 cents. Which, when you stop and think about it, like my 2 hours is worth way more than 50 cents. So not a good trade. But learning to that it doesn't have to be perfect. Sometimes good enough is good enough. We can go ahead and buy it here, and if it turns out that it was, I'm probably never going to know that it was $20 cheaper somewhere else, and if it was, that's okay, because under the circumstances we can afford it, or whatever the circumstance might be, that I don't have to necessarily have it all figured out before I step out. I can relax, loosen up, just kind of try it, see what happens. It's okay to just do something and see what
dive
happens.
In there.
Throw it at the wall, see if it sticks.
Yeah.
I say that a lot.
And it's okay if it doesn't stick. We'll try again.
Definitely not with the rice. You don't want the rice to. No.
Is that how you tell when the pasta's done, right? You throw it to the wall.
That's what we still do.
Yeah.
All right.
When it gets to the wall.
So this is done. I was just going to show the camera how it coats the back of a spoon so we can run our hand through it. And that was ready before, but we then added some more liquid with the cream. And then I just put in, that was half a stick of butter.
A couple tablespoons.
A quarter stick of butter. There's a couple of tablespoons, just a little bit to finish this off. This is done. I've got it turned off. Our rice is hopefully done. I think our broccoli should be done.
It smells done. I can smell it.
What does it say? Yeah, so,
Ooh, it's
Can I
pretty.
take the rolls out?
yeah. So we're really ready to kind of plate
See
up.
that the button popped out.
Again, I just like, at the very end, just dribbling a tad more lemon juice on there.
Oh, it's sizzling, y'all. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's sizzling.
That was just the juice of
It
the
smells
lemon.
so good.
So that's ready to go. Our bread's ready to go. I did chop up, I just finally chopped up some fresh basil because we'll put that on at the very end. So our magic moment, we gotta see if our rice ended up being okay.
And if it's not,
Here we
it's
go.
always okay to substitute a cookie for your rice.
There you go. I like the way you think, Matthew. We're gonna drum roll here.
Yeah, so
I have no doubt.
I don't know that I can put it up there, but oh my, it's fine.
Oh, it's like,
Most beautiful rice I've
My
ever
heart skipped a
made.
beat for a second there.
So
that was good.
we basically are now just fluffing it, and so I can show you guys.
Oh, sweet.
Fluffy white rice, y'all. It
Fluffy
looks
white
good.
rice. Alrighty, so we're basically done. We're going to plate this thing up. We're going to take us a little bit of rice. We're going to take us some broccoli.
This looks so good.
I'm excited.
Yeah, it's been
Me
a
too.
challenge to sit here and watch that cook, and
Right. And you get to taste stuff. And
your mouth can only water for
Just
so long.
watch.
We're going to grab us a chicken. And then I got a gravy ladle here because I want some of that not only on the
Move
chicken,
the bread back out.
but also on the rice because we didn't flavor our rice. We got a piece of bread. Parmesan cheese is optional. Dave, this is going to be your plate. Do you want Parmesan on your...
Absolutely, man. There's
All right.
never a bad time for cheese.
Yeah, so I just like sprinkling a little bit. Oh, this
that a
isn't
brand
even
new?
open. The magic of cooking.
We were just waiting to see how long you would try to.
Yeah. So we're just going
That
to
would
put a
be
little
me.
bit on the
Oh wow.
on that, and then we got a little bit of fresh basil.
Amazing.
There you go. Well, I'm going to try this and let y'all know how good. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Man, this has been a fun conversation. Thanks so much for doing this, guys. And Bo and Andrea, man, thanks for walking us through this whole
Yes,
meal.
and
We're
sharing your
excited.
expertise with us. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
We're going to jump in
I
and
learned a
enjoy
lot.
this here in just a minute, but we just wanted to say a huge thank you for joining us tonight. As always, you can visit The Rooted Marriage on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, where daily we have encouragement and tips for your marriage, things to help you walk with God, as well as just grow closer to your spouse. So, hey, join us next month in August for our next date night. We've teamed up with Goose Chase to do an online scavenger hunt, and where you'll compete with couples all around the city and all around the country for some amazing prizes. So, hey, if you want a prize in the comments section, we'll let you know via direct message, and we'd love to send you out some really cool stuff just to remind you that we appreciate you tuning in. Man, we're so thankful for this. And let me just pray for this food as well as send you out on your way. Again, thanks for joining us tonight. We're so grateful for that. Heavenly Father, thanks for food, thanks for marriage, and thanks for friends. And thanks for how all these things work together to remind us that you love us and you pour out your grace on us through Jesus Christ. And as well, that we can enjoy and are encouraged by just being around each other. Lord, we lift up those watching at home, as well as those that will tune in at a later date, that this would be an encouragement to them. And we just ask this in your precious and holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Bye.
Enjoy
Thank
this.
you.